Friday, so then it'll close next Friday, and we'll get talent bank forms, and then we'll hopefully start interviewing people and get a full board back on through the talent banks.
Okay.
All right. And at 6:35, we're going to go into a public hearing for Highfield Village at Northfield Road. So if I could have a motion to leave our scheduled meeting to go into the public hearing to return to our open meeting.
Motion to, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. Okay, I'm going to open up the public hearing for Highfield Village. It will hold a public hearing continuation at Town Hall, 17 Main Street, Leominster, Mass. To hear and discuss a plan under Section 5.6, Cluster Development, a development plan review under Section 8.4 of the Protected Bylaw of the Town of Lunenburg. The application is to construct 66 dwelling units off the south side of Northfield Road between Massachusetts Ave, map 057, parcel 0031, and Northfield Road, map 037, parcel 0009. Owners are John and David Selba, 227 Lewis Wharf, Boston, Mass. 0211, and Robert Lavorne, trustee, Lunenburg, nominee trust, 880 Winter Street, Suite 340, Wellmouth, Mass. Okay, and so I'm going to open the meeting to continue the meeting until June 23rd at 6:35 here at the Ritter Building, at the Town Hall. Do we know why are we still, the two engineers still working?
They're still working together.
Together
Yes,
on that?
they are,
Okay.
Yeah. So at this point, they at the last time we met with them, they didn't have something ready for this particular meeting, and they thought the 23rd would be a better time.
They'll be ready?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we are going to close this, well, not close it, continue it to June 23rd at 6:35 PM. So would I have a motion to continue this to June 23rd?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, and now I would accept a motion to come out of the public hearing to go back into our scheduled planning board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, we're back. Welcome. And now we'll go right into appointments that we have at 6:40.
I did do sign-in sheets.
You did do the sign-in
Yeah.
sheet?
So
Okay, for everybody here, there is a sign-in sheet, so if we have more meetings on these, you sign in, put your email, and they'll email you that information. Whenever we have a public hearing, you have to sign in, just so we know who the participants were. So thank you, and that's over there on the conference table. And we're now going to go into our appointment with the Middle School High School Project Site Plan Review. And who are we going to have? Hi, David, how are you?
Thank you. I'll just put my boards up over here and then I'll grab
Absolutely.
the microphone.
Yeah, just like you did last time, perfect.
Okay, good evening. My name is David Warner. I'm principal at Warner Larson Landscape Architects, and with me tonight representing the design team is Charlie Hay from Tappe Associates, Aaron Gallagher, and Sean Smith from Niche Engineering. Just to recap, we were before you on May 12th, where we gave you a very introductory presentation of the project, and then we had the tech meeting with the various departments in town. I believe that was on May 21st. And the drawings have been, and drainage calculations and traffic management summary have been reviewed by your independent engineering firm, Whitman and Bingham. And we have received their comments back last week and then went over them at length. Our engineers and myself went through those with Anthony, who's here tonight, and Wes, I believe, also from your firm. So I want to basically right now, for everybody who maybe wasn't here on the May 12th meeting, to talk briefly about the overall scope and nature of the project, and then turn it over for any questions that you may have, the board may have. So this board right here shows the overall context of the site, and then I have an enlargement that's going to be a lot easier for people to see the actual design. But Mass Ave is located at the bottom of the sheet here. North is up. This is the Turkey Hill Middle School and the Passios School building. And the existing high school building is dashed in a dark outline right here. This project is a phased project where the new school will be built on the upper level athletic fields while the existing school is in operation. And then when this building is complete, the students will move into the new building. The existing building will be torn down and the ball fields will be constructed down here. In the earliest phase of the project, we'll be recreating about 2/3 of this field down here to offset the displaced, some of the displaced athletic field space that the new building is taking up. So as far as traffic circulation is concerned, we have this existing driveway entrance that will be serving as the main drive for the new high school, middle school building. We're connecting it all the way through the site to a new driveway entrance on Oak Avenue, and that will serve all of the drop-off and pickup on the west side of the new building. The student parking lot is going to be regraded, but it's going to remain in its existing location. And the driveway entrance off of Mass Ave will also remain as it exists today. We have changed this end of the parking lot to act as a drop-off zone for sporting events. And the design in this area is designed. Well, let me move over to the larger plan because that will be easier to see. So here's where I was looking at in the previous plan. It's designed to maintain the existing concession building and Grove there and Memorial. And this area is going to serve as like I said, the athletic entrance, but it also is where the students will be arriving, parking and being able to access to the front of the school up this way. We have the parent drop-off loop here and the bus loop located here. One of the comments that came up in the tech meeting was concerns associated with the amount of queuing that would occur at this drop-off loop. So in response to suggestions that were made at that meeting, we have widened the driveway from here back to where it already is greater than 32 feet in width to be able to have a dedicated queuing lane while still having two-way traffic in that location. And that was a concern that was brought up by your safety officials in town, so that when cars are queued up along the curb here, there would be no concern about being able to get emergency vehicles up to the front of the school building. Of course, we always have this new entrance up here as well, and that will provide a second means in to the site. And also we have this third access point that's going to be maintained to the student parking lot. That connects to a new fire lane, emergency access drive, that will circumnavigate the building. I think with the traffic management summary that has been performed as a result of this review, there was also a analysis of safe site distances off-site. And this driveway intersection checks out fine. This driveway intersection is on a flat, straight area, and that checks out fine. This driveway here, because the speed limit is not posted right now, and the police chief has described the speed limit along here as 30 miles per hour because it's a thickly settled area. The recommendations from our traffic engineer are to post that speed limit in advance of this intersection so that the speed of vehicles traveling in that area can be enforced to that speed limit. There's also some vegetation clearing in this location and possibly some pavement markings to keep the vehicles away from the curb line and out in the travel lane that will And when those recommendations are implemented off-site, this stopping distance at this intersection is also acceptable. So we understand that the town has their own program for doing traffic improvements off-site, so those are not incorporated into the high school design, but they need to be implemented as part of the recommendations. The on-site traffic recommendations were to do just this, what I described a minute ago, in terms of allowing adequate queuing distance for vehicles when parents are coming in here in the afternoon, and live parking along here to pick up their children. I think those were some of the most substantive comments from the town with regards to the review. There were a lot of detailed comments from the engineering review with regard to the drainage design and just getting on the same page, I think. And what we are, I think what I'd like to do is see if there are any questions from your board that we can address here tonight. And one of the, what we're really asking for with regard to this review process, because of the time frame associated with this project now, with the construction manager basically bidding out the work and needing to start construction in some of the early phases, constructing this field and starting the foundation work for the building, is to see if you would be willing to consider conditional acceptance of what's been submitted and presented, with conditional on your reviewing engineer being satisfied with the response. So what I've delivered here tonight are the revised drawings. We've made the revisions that were talked about in the tech meeting, and also when we submitted the original drawings, we were in a % complete on construction documents. Those are the documents there. I'm sorry, I'm pointing to the rolls of drawings on the floor behind your desk that we brought here tonight, that are the bid documents that were sent out for contractor pricing. We sent those out for the early work of foundations and some of the field work, because the construction manager needed to get that process moving. What we will be doing as part of the completing the review with your review engineer is putting together any further changes in a conformed set. That set of drawings will be stamped as part of the building permit application for the project, and that can serve as the record. So that is what I intended to present tonight, but we're here to answer any questions that you might have with regard to the design or the application.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, Anthony, do you want to come up now and give your review? And then we can ask questions on both aspects.
I don't know if you had a chance to look at the letter at all. There was 100 points brought up. Many of them were in relation to various sections of the regulations.
I know who you are because you've come here quite frequently.
Yeah, my name is...
But if you could introduce
Sure.
yourself for the group.
My name is Anthony Cleaves. I'm with Whitman and Bingham Associates, engineers reviewing the project on behalf of the planning board.
Thank you.
So as I mentioned, it was a 100-point list. Many of them are in regards to specific requirements in various sections of various zoning, subdivision, parking requirements. Many are redundant, but reference various sections. So there are 100, but many of them are overlapping. So if you can go through each one, or however you'd like to go through it. I don't know if anyone has any specific ones they've looked at, but I can go through each one if you'd like.
I think there's, for me, I don't want to speak for my board. For me, I know this comes under Dover, right? It's not an amendment, what is it, the municipalities the Dover.
Yeah, I believe it's.
Is it amendment? Because I didn't think it was amendment, I thought it was
It's
scheduled.
underneath 48, Section 3.
Okay. So, and I know as a municipality, there's some leeway, but then there's some things that there isn't leeway on. So, on the document you gave us with the,
Yeah, so if I can, we reviewed this as a project that we look
Exactly.
at every regulation and to see its conformance to that. And we made the point for each of them for the board, so you knew exactly where it met, or where it didn't meet it. Many of them, you may feel comfortable granting a waiver, and we would be in support of many of that. We want to bring all that information forward. I think it helps the board and also the applicants so that, you'll probably approve many of these, but now it's out there that you've seen those comments, been discussed and approved, so it protects everybody. So that's
I
why
agree.
it's a little lengthier than we expected, but we thought it was best to bring all the points to the board so you knew exactly how it conformed or how it didn't.
okay. Did you want to say something?
No, I agree with him.
Okay.
So I can try and go through them quickly, and there
Okay,
are
go
a lot
ahead.
of points. Don't wanna-
Rock and roll.
Okay.
Can I ask a favor? Do you have any sense of prioritization of the points that you made, of things that you feel are very important versus?
Did you grab the sheet, because they're color-coded?
The
applicant had
That's the
color-coded
color-coded
those, yeah.
response, though, isn't it?
I thought they were,
I think,
they're all.
Is this your color coding?
No, that was the
It's their
the design
response is
team.
color coding. That's what they feel the priority is.
I don't know.
I'm
So
curious
then-
what
or maybe
our
they went through
engineering
this.
feels the priorities are.
So again, we can go through each of them.
Yeah.
And kind of discuss each one.
Yeah, well,
So,
Did they add this to the?
go ahead, Ian.
sure. So the first section is in relation to the protective bylaws, the zoning bylaws. One is just in reference that the proposed building is 40 feet in height, and that exceeds the maximum height in the bylaws of 38 feet. So again, just bringing that up. Number two, in reference to off-street parking, each space should be 300 square feet of net standing maneuvering area, and that's considered one space by the bylaws. What's drawn is 18-foot by 9-foot parking space, 24-foot aisle. So when you calculate that out, it's less than the 300 square feet, which has been a standard in the town. In regards to that, I'll elaborate. We feel as though an 18-foot by 9-foot standard parking space and a 24-foot maneuvering aisle is adequate, and we would agree with the applicant that is safe. It just doesn't meet the letter of the zoning bylaw of the 300 square feet. 3 open off-street parking in areas and loading areas located in a residence or adjacent to a residence A shall be screened from all adjacent lots by a 6-foot strip densely planted with shrubs or trees at least 3 feet in height at the time of the planting, and to provide a year-round screening. And so on the site, there are many areas that have existing trees that are remaining, specifically in the rear. Where that comment was specifically looking at too was along the Oak Ave parking lot. There is a piece of property that doesn't show any screening as listed in the zoning, but they show a 6-foot high screening fence along that property line and an 8-foot screening fence along that abutter's rear property line. I believe the intent would be to provide screening there. So the regulations don't list out fencing as an alternative. So again, just bring that up, that it's different from that. 4, except in cases for dwellings, off-street parking and loading shall be paved to specifications according to the road construction definition and directives of the planning board. And that, you'll see a lot of these will refer to other sections and they get into more detail later on. So you'll see many of these. Number 5, the regulations require a minimum driveway width for two-way traffic of 14 feet each way with a 4-foot median in between with keep right signs. That's not provided at Oak Ave or at the existing east driveway entrance. But again, that'd be one that we've seen waived in the past and not put in every case. Signs erected by the town or government in all districts, are permitted in all districts, provided that they meet the general requirements of section 6.51. The signs that they propose don't appear to meet the maximum size allowed. The maximum size offhand is 3 square feet. The sign is greater than that. And it also doesn't meet the front yard setback. 7, regulations read that each site have 1 entrance and 1 exit, and that exit and entrance have a divider strip of at least 18 inches. This is a spot where it's somewhat contradictory to other regulations of the town, but it's similar to item number 5 in regards to a median separating an in and an out. And then this also is where it puts a project, the way the regulations read is it kicks through development plan review projects into subdivision control law standards and the planning board rules and regulations as well. Development plan review plan should meet the requirements of off-street parking and loading. Again, references the subdivision control law, and those points are called out specifically further on in the document. And then number 9, same thing. It gets into more detail later on. So then we get into the subdivision rules and regulations and where those are applicable to that. Number 10, at least 3 feet of cover will be required over all drains unless otherwise specified or approved by the board. A comment like that, again, we would support cover of less than 3 feet as long as the pipe is adequate, the type of pipe is adequate for the amount of cover, and additional precautions may be needed. Subgrade surface, 16.5 inches below finished grade shall be prepared, true to lines, grades, and cross sections. The plans call for 16 inches of distance to subgrade, and where that ½ inch comes from is from the pavement cross section, which we get into later on, which ultimately would be fine with that as well, but would need a waiver. Minimum width of pavement for secondary and intermediate streets is 24 feet. That comment comes in regards to the 18-foot driveway that goes around the school. But as was mentioned, it appears as the intent of that is more for emergency access only, so not necessarily being used as a driveway, as it was explained. But again, doesn't meet the strict listing of the bylaw. Compacted pavement thickness for minor roads shall be a base of 3 inches and a top of 1.5. That's what I was referring to, that ½ inch. The plans call for a 2.5 inch of base and a 1.5 inch of top, which is a standard pavement cross-section, and we would have no issue with that. Sidewalks laid in 2 courses, each one 1.25 inch, and shall have 2.5 inch after compression, and shall be constructed on a 9.5 inch gravel foundation. The plans show an 8 inch gravel foundation. Same thing, we would be fine with an 8 inch compacted gravel base course. Granite curbs should be provided along each edge of a roadway where the grade exceeds 5%. Again, on site plans like this, we typically don't see granite curbs in the middle of the sites for grades there, so we would be in support of that if the board wanted to waive that. Granite curbs should be provided on the inner side of all curbs with a radius less than 200 feet. Same thing, you don't see that much on sites themselves. 17, granite curbs shall be provided at intersections along the roadway, distance of the arcs of the curves, plus a straight section at each end of 15 feet. So that's the talking right at where the driveway or a roadway would tie into an intersecting street. Say the entrance on Oak Ave and the entrances onto Mass Ave. So on those, again, in the past, I think the board has required that on many major entrances and exits onto the roadway. 18, minimum 4-foot grass plot should be provided each side of the roadway between the edge of curb and sidewalk areas. It's more geared towards subdivision, so I think, we would support a waiver there. At least 5 feet of cover is required over all sewer mains, sewer manhole 408, and the existing sewer service under the athletic fields don't appear to meet that requirement. That would be one that we think should look into of being fixed to provide adequate cover. Centerline radius of a common driveway shall not be less than the minimum centerline radius of a minor street, which is 150 feet. It appears as though they meet that, it just wasn't specifically labeled on the plans what that radius was. Looking at it, it seems as though it is greater than 150 feet, so that's just a notation. Then we get into the regulations of the planning board governing the design and construction maintenance of off-street parking and loading. Many similar comments from previous regulations. Interior driveways and service roads shall have a minimum width as follows: one-way 15 feet and two-way 30 feet. Again, I think we feel that the driveways that they're providing inside the site are adequate. The grade for an entrance of the first 100 feet cannot exceed 1.5%. It looks like the Oak Ave at the about 80 to 100 feet away from Oak Ave, the entrance, that area gets above that, about 2.5%. We wouldn't have an issue with that grade. An area should be designed on the plan for the parking lot to show snow storage, at least 5% of the gross parking area. That should just be shown on the plan, and based on our discussions, I believe they'll be doing that. Parking lots, loading areas, drives, and sidewalks shall conform with the relevant requirements of the subdivision control law. Again, just a redundancy from other comments. Trunk drain should be adequate in capacity to carry the flow of a 10-year storm frequency. We get into that in more detail later on, but that's one that we do feel is important, and based on discussions, they're going to provide further information on, we call the hydraulic grade lines, to show if with pipes that do get backed up, how backed up they get and how it affects the overall system. Finished grade elevation should be shown on the parking lot plan for pipe inverts and rim grades of structures. Just a few minor notations to add.
Okay, can I stop you there for
Absolutely.
one moment, Anthony?
Yeah.
Because on those 3 pages, those are all basically the curbing, the paving, and I don't see anything that you felt change required or priority. These
Yep.
were all no change, just letting us know, FYI, the rule is here, it might be short, whatever those were per each bullet.
Yep.
Now, my only question is, because then we can move on, so there's nothing in here that we're going to say, geez, what are we looking at?
No, probably not. Like I said,
Okay.
the only ones that
19 and 25.
were 19 in regards to the cover of the sewer.
Right, like he had them, they have them as blue, as being, they're supporting no change necessary.
Again, I don't want to speak for the applicant.
That's the, yeah.
Oh, that's not you.
I didn't color code
No,
that.
I went to tell
The
you
color
that,
code
yeah,
is their
Color code
response,
is the
not our
applicant's,
engineering
and I
response.
didn't know that
I'm like, well,
until-
no, because they're all happy with it, so let's move
Okay.
right on.
So that's
I was trying to
the
clarify
applicant.
earlier.
Sorry, I thought you knew that.
Okay. So out of all of those,
So again, the ones I thought that the board, the
I
cover over the
checked.
sewer,
20.
number 19. The granite curbs at the intersection, again, just from past experience with the boards over the years, that one sometimes has been, in various cases, case-by-case basis, sometimes you have enforced having a granite curbing at the roundings at the intersection. But I don't believe it's been on a case-by-case basis. So I just brought that up, so the board, that'll be a discussion for the board.
and so that's 19 and 20.
That's 17 is the granite curb, 19 is the sewer, which should be addressed, the cover of the sewer.
And then 25.
And 25 on the sizing of the pipe capacity to the 10-year storm event frequency when
Okay.
flowing full. We talked with the applicant on that, and they're going to provide additional information in regards to, because there are a few pipes, and we'll get into it in the stormwater section, that the flow to the pipes exceed the capacity of the pipes. So they're going to provide more information on what's happening to the system, how it backs up into a manhole or a catch basin, and so on. So with that information, we could comment further on that.
Okay, so now my question on that is, and it might be to you as you were at the tech review meeting, has someone talked with the DPW, because they'll be taking this driveway over, the curbing over after the fact. So did the DPW director or the fire department with the radius, the trucks
I think that,
going through?
I think the DPW director, Jack, had to leave before the stormwater went over, or that was towards the end, so maybe, outreaching to Jack in
that's
regards
what-
to this.
Okay, because he's the one that's gonna be responsible for this when it's all said and done, so I just wanna make sure.
And I think you've seen these plans before too, but we should just double check with him.
Especially where it's kind of different when you're reading it in writing versus looking
Right.
at the plan.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to make sure Jack understands what we're, okay, thank you.
And so now we get into comments specific to stormwater management. 27, 28, and 29 are in regards to time of concentration calculations for pre and post conditions. Just asking for them to look into a little more into the times of concentrations they use in the report, just to kind of confirm some of that. So again, those are items we'd like to see some further information on, just to confirm the information they provided. 30, they listed using a 0 to 48 hour time span in their calculations, but it appeared as only a 24-hour time span was done in the calculation, so it's just to run it out for 48 hours and just make sure the calculations don't change. 31, piping analysis appeared to use a 10-year storm event in their narrative. In the stormwater narrative, they mentioned that the 25-year intensity is appropriate for the project. So we're just looking for confirmation, 25-year or 10-year storm event. 32, the pre and post for the drainage uses a condition of fair for the surface cover of the grass. We thought as though that the existing conditions warranted more of a consideration for good. And so we just asked them to look at that and adjust that as necessary. 33, this is where it gets into more of the piping analysis. There are various pipes, the flow capacities are exceeded. We listed out which ones. So that's just a good look. That's, I think, gets back to that previous comment about the height of the water in those. Surface flow rates are shown to various catch basins in excess of 3 CFS. DEP recommends that inlet openings for deep sump catch basins not exceed 3 CFS, and that's for a water quality issue. But then also the other part of this comment is when you have excessive water to a grate, sometimes you can create ponding in those situations. So we're just looking to have those conditions evaluated just to make sure that there isn't unacceptable ponding at low points of catch basins, or we don't have too much water getting to a catch basin. Slopes and velocities of the pipes for OCS 1 and catch basin 321 are high. The velocity shouldn't exceed 12 feet per second. And number 36, values in the stormwater calcs should be consistent with the plans. There was just some, and you'll see a lot of these comments, there's more coordination stuff, which are expected in large projects like this. We brought them up to kind of help everybody. I would say with a town project, we wouldn't want inconsistencies to go too far because it's going to cost the town money. So some of these may be minor, but we noticed them in our reviews. We brought them up. So 36 is in regards to that. 37, some of the inverts of the drainage structures of the outlets are higher than the inlets, so you'd have a backup of the pipe upstream. So we're just going to take a look at that. Existing catch basin 336, which is where all of the new pipe network ties into. We were looking at it, the way we were understanding how it was working was they're going to replace that structure with a catch basin, so our comment was to replace that with a drain manhole. But I believe they're looking at that as a different way as possibly an outlet control structure with allowing it to come out of the catch basin. So I believe they're going to be providing more information on that. So we would just look into that further and see how that's actually going to be utilized, make sure there isn't any flooding impacts there to abutting property. So I think more information is going to be coming on that from what we understand. 39, just one catch basin is drawn, is labeled as a single, is drawn as a double, but labeled as a single, so just confirmation on that. And then 40 is in regards to the 3 feet of pipe cover. We just list which structures don't have that. And then we just asked to verify that the type of pipe that's used to be installed can adequately handle that cover. 41, catch basin lead to the manhole. It looks like the way it's shown may need to be relayed because of the elevations. And then many of these, again, I don't want to, 42, 43 are just more notations, additional information should be provided to help for construction of the plans. Drain manholes greater than 4 feet should be noted. 43, a detail should be provided for a double catch basin. 44, it appears one of the catch basins is excessively deep, 10 feet. Just take a look at that and see if they can reduce that. 45, a notation should be made for any topsoil and subsoil below the infiltration systems. They have 2 infiltration systems proposed for roof runoff. Just a note to remove that, and from our discussions, it sounds like that's in their specifications for the project, which we didn't have, they weren't on the plans. The invert elevation of the pipe for roof drain 1 is lower than the outlet control structure weir, which that's the infiltration system that it ties into. So what happens there is that impedes the ability of that pipe to remain free-flowing with the roof drain out of the building without backing up within the building limits. So that one would be an important one to see how that's going to be addressed, as you could have water backing up onto that pipe and may not be quite in line with the plumbing code. Roof drain should be specified as cast iron within 10 feet of the building. Inspection port should be shown in infiltration area 1. Information should be provided verifying that the east driveway culvert is adequately sized to accommodate the expected tributary flow. It's an 8-inch culvert. I think they stated there's a 6-inch culvert there now. That's the existing driveway on the right-hand side of the plans there. So they put in an 8-inch. It was just kind of confirmation on what if that handles the flow. If it doesn't, what happens? So you're aware of what would happen. 50, and then so the rest of this page, 50 through 59, is in regards to DEP stormwater management standards. Standard number 1 is, although the calculations show no increase in the peak rate of runoff from the pre and post conditions to the major design points, the tributary area to the existing 24-inch pipe, which is, there's a pipe that discharges to a drainage ditch or a swale behind the synthetic turf field. So most of the water of the site, the proposed site, gets collected by a stormwater system and routed to that location. The overall design point is more the wetlands that they looked at, so the pre and post, according to the calculations, match. But what you should also look at is what impacts you might have at the end of that 24-inch pipe, just to make sure you don't have any scouring or erosion potential at the end of that pipe, because you are sending more water there. Although it all eventually gets to that ditch, that one at the end of that pipe would be considered a critical design point. So we just asked to take a look at that to make sure that there are no negative impacts there. So that would be an important one too. It's 51 in regards to the recharge standard, about having test pits in the infiltration areas to verify groundwater and soil texture. I believe they have that, or in the process of getting that final information to verify that. 52 is in regards to making sure there's a 72-hour drawdown time in those structures. They'll be providing that. 53 and 54 in regards to the water quality at the east driveway. They propose a swale and they show TSS calculations for that. I think there's just maybe some typos in the actual calculations of it. You have less than 80% TSS removal there. DEP standards, you like to have 80%, but as discussed with the applicant, it's an existing part of the driveway. Tough spot to do much. I think they did a good job trying to do what they could to improve that water quality situation, so we wouldn't have an issue with it, just bringing it up. That's 53 and 54. 55, they call for a 73% TSS removal of their water quality structures. We just asked that be put on the plans, knowing that as this is a public bid project, you can have approved equals and make sure that putting in something that has that. I believe they're putting that in the specifications. 57, I believe it was just 56 and 56, they're going to provide more information on a total maximum daily load of the receiving water that they discharge to. 57, I believe, was a typo in regards to this site being a high potential for pollutant loads. As they had said, if you have over 1,000 trips per day, it's considered a high potential pollutant load, and they had expressed that this site would not have that. Number 58, they referenced supplying illicit discharge statement, but I think it just didn't make it in the package. 59, I believe, was just leftover verbiage, probably from another document, so that was not really applicable to the project. 60 is in regards to underground injection wells, which fall under the underground injection control guidelines or laws of the Commonwealth, where stormwater infiltration systems require registration and approval through DEP. Talking with them, they've had conflicting, I believe, information from various departments and DEP, and we have too in our experience. Some projects we've had to do it, some we haven't. So I think they're going to, follow up on that and see if they have any further information. But we've come across that in our past. We bring that up too. 61, structures with a larger than standard diameter should be noted. There's some deep structures shown, close to 20 feet deep. So some of those we're just want to make sure that due to the high groundwater that's explained out there, that you don't have any buoyancy issues, that the structures want to pop out of the ground. Just make sure they check that. Plans call for corrugated plastic pipe. We just asked for a clarification on the type of pipe, which again, they mentioned it was in the specifications and just wasn't shown on the plans yet. There's some drain lines that are installed in groundwater, so you should have some details indicating watertight piping or gasketed joints to eliminate groundwater penetration into those pipes, and also maybe putting in some impervious dams to prohibit the migration of groundwater through the trenches. 65, 66, and 67 in regards to erosion control depicted on the plans. I think it was just one of those coordination issues. I think they hadn't gotten to 100% plans yet, and so it was just graphic errors that they're just going to show the erosion control in the correct location, so no issues there. 68, we mentioned that consideration should be given to additional erosion control measures along the east side of the project to ensure siltation doesn't occur to the existing synthetic turf field. That's the top of the turf field. There's a slope where the bleachers are. That's basically the limit of work on the right-hand side of the proposed driveway. So we have a synthetic turf field. You don't want to have any erosion get down to that turf field. So we just mentioned you might want to look at having additional erosion controls instead of just one erosion control barrier. 69, more specific info should be provided, which is in reference to another one of the regulations, but lengths and slopes of pipe, additional inverts, things like that, would help to construct it. And then just some clarification, there are some pipes that weren't labeled, that should just be labeled to make sure you get the right pipe size. Number 70 is in regards to a water service that's being provided from the school to the concession stand. Just recommend putting in a shut-off for that. There may be one provided in the building, on the building plans, but just kind of making sure that that's covered. The edge of the retaining wall on the east side of the concession stand is shown right around the edge of the paved driveway. So as you come off of the circle at the end of the parking area for the students, just when you get to the concession stand, you have a retaining wall right up against the driveway. And so the way it was shown graphic on the plans, there are some catch basins shown right up against that wall. To put that in, the actual wall of the catch basin would conflict with the wall, the retaining wall. So they'll have to just provide another kind of structure to make that work. And then, so what we looked at doing is, setting the wall back was one of our comments. Move the wall back so you could fit that. I believe they're going to not do that, as it would increase the height of the wall. The other thought on that comment in regards to moving the wall back was to provide more separation to the driveway for cars, and the concern about having cars drive off the wall. And in the detail, they do show a raised wall there from the driveway. It's up about 8 or 9 inches. And through discussions, they talked about how that wall was designed as more of a vehicular barrier. Because that would be a concern too. There isn't a guardrail shown there, but talking with them, it was designed as a vehicular barrier. So I believe they're going to mention that in their comments back, so that'll be good to have in the comments that they mention that. 72 is just coordination with the site plans and the details in regards to the fence along the wall. 73, again, a coordination comment. 74, the access road in the back of the building shows it being crowned with no curb, so I think a curb should be added to divert the water to the catch basins. 75, it looked like some of the existing conditions survey didn't quite cover all the project area. So we'll just look at that to extend that if needed to make sure that the proposed project works with the existing topography. 76, looked like there might be a conflict with the water main and a drain. 77 was, a comment came up during one of the tech review meetings from the fire chief about adding a fire hydrant. In my notes, I didn't have the exact location and everything, I just bring it up to make sure that the fire chief comment was addressed adequately. I believe he was referring to having a hydrant put in the front or near the front of the Passios building. Special provisions should be noted for crossings of the sewer service above the water service. Specify the sewer piping to be STR 35 PVC. Again, so 80 is another just a note about having sewer manholes that are going to be filled. So you may have to remove the cone and replace that, just a notation. 81, there's a sewer line that runs through the two new fields in the front. It looks like what they're doing is the grade is going to get cut down there. It looks like you're going to have inadequate cover over that existing sewer line, so they may have to have that sewer line relayed, so that should be noted. 82 is in regards to, we understood that from various town officials, that there was a request of a property line created between the high school, middle school project and the Passio school. We just kind of bring that up to reiterate comments that we have heard from other town officials in regards to that, because there wasn't one shown currently. Some specific noting, 83 for the sewer manhole detail, I believe they're putting that in their specifications. Confirmation should be obtained from the DPW and/or sewer commission in regards to utilization of cleanouts for bends and sewers greater than 45 degrees. 85, the external grease trap should be submitted to the sewer commission for the review. So again, those are things that DPW director and the sewer commission should probably take a look at and just make sure they're okay with that. 86, just a notation, coordination. 87, plans being stamped, which was discussed by the applicant. 88, same thing, a coordination of the plans. 89, the parking lot, the student parking lot, which is the parking lot on the right, required, per ADA, requires 5 accessible spaces. They've shown 4, so I believe they're going to change that. Add additional spot grades in the handicap areas. That's to ensure that they're constructed to the code. 91 is just additional labeling for conformance to the regulations. 92, in regards to the loading area, it appears that large delivery vehicles will require multiple turning movements to exit the loading area. They don't have a lot of room back there to get large trucks, tractor-trailer trucks out of that area without doing multiple turning movements. So just bring that up. 93 and 94, kind of logistics questions in regards to the fields. We were just asking the question if any bleachers were going to be provided on the visitor side of field number 2, which is the field on the left there, which is the football field, which I believe is going to be one of the football field. They just show bleachers on the driveway side, just and no bleachers on the other side. Nothing right or wrong with that. Just bring it up as something we noticed. Ask if there was going to be any kind of a barrier between fields 2 and 3. 2 and 3, again, the large middle field there, the rectangle, the square. There's one field on the left and there's another field on the right. So we just asked if there was going to be any kind of a barrier separation between that when you may have, say, a football practice going on the football field and a field hockey game going on next door. Is there any kind of a barrier, a rope or something? I don't believe there are, which, again, nothing right or wrong, just brought it up as something to see if it was considered. Any temporary provisions provided, like, for example, netting along field number 1. Field number 1 is the field closest to Mass Ave. Just to deter from sports balls, say from soccer, getting kicked out into the roadway. And I believe they can see their comment there. Nothing was planned, but something they could add in the future. 66 and 67 in regards to the wetlands on the site. Just asked that the wetlands report should be submitted to take a look at, and that we recommended what they call a notice of resource area delineation or request for determination be submitted to the Conservation Commission to verify the wetland delineation. Based on discussion, I believe they had noted that they had gone over that with the Conscom's agent. So we just bring it up as a suggestion that they might want to just look into that, and it sounds like they may have. 98 is in regards to the site distance, which was discussed. So again, the exit, the east exit, which is the right exit, that goes directly to the student parking area. According to their traffic assessment, doesn't meet the site distance as you're exiting that. And they also mentioned in their traffic report that, or their memo, that the conditions may actually be worse than calculated because the actual observed speeds are actually potentially higher than what's actually posted. So even more of a potential issue. And then we also note that now you're going to have a left and a right-hand turn coming out of that, which can make it even more difficult to see if you're trying to look left and right, you have another car next to you, to even more exacerbate that potential sight distance issue. Again, and also with a student parking lot where it's going to be mostly students coming in and out of there. And so they had some recommendations, which was discussed during the presentation. On that, the on-site improvements were shown on the plan, but the off-site improvements that were recommended didn't show on the plans. So we weren't sure how they're going to be implemented in regards to the reduced posting of the speed limit. And what that's, if that is one of the solutions, what is that speed limit going to be posted to make sure that it meets the site distance for that, or any other additional traffic controls. But it seems as though, from what I understand, that was going to be something that the onus was on the town to do. So just want to make sure it's part of the project, to discuss just how that's implemented to make sure that it is addressed, so you have a safe access there. Number 100, it was just confirmation on the setback from the generator to the building. And I believe they're going to check that, and I believe their look at it was fine. Sorry it was so lengthy and took a little bit of time there, but we tried to be all comprehensive to include everything in there.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question, Anthony, on the 98, the entrance we're talking about that doesn't meet the site distance, just to reiterate, is the current one that we're using today? Right, so that's one that we've already been using, and today we can take a left or right.
Yeah, you can still take, there's not a dedicated left and right-hand turn lane.
Right, but currently that's...
You
okay,
can
'cause
take a left and right, yeah.
I didn't know if I was breaking the law, because I go
Yeah.
either way.
Yeah.
So I know currently that's how I use that exit, and I go right or left. Okay.
Yeah.
Just
Again, the reasoning for the comment is, we have a new project, large project. You have an existing entrance, but if there's ways to improve it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And site distance has been one of our
Sure.
battles.
So sporting events and things like that's where the concern is on speed there? Because it is.
No, well, at any time. It doesn't meet the school, schools only have the posting flashing sign there, which will help, but I believe the signs are right at the entrance. That doesn't give a driver, you'll come around, there's a corner that you come around.
So is that one of the recommendations to move the school?
So one of the recommendations are, I believe, to post the speed limit lower than what's there now. I believe there's a speed limit sign of 40 at Northfield Road. And that's the only other sign there as you start to come up to the school. So I believe, again, they can comment further, but from what I understand is that you post the speed limit lower, 30, 25, whatever it is, and then your sight distance criteria go down. You don't need as much of a sight distance because the vehicles traveling on Mass Ave will be going slower. They don't need as much of a reaction time. But also, it's still, still becomes a concern, and as was noted in the report, as they were out there, people are traveling faster than the posted speed limit, so it becomes an enforcement issue too. I think part of the difficulty is you have existing center line and horizontal and vertical alignment issues of the corner on Mass Ave coming around. So the only way to improve the sight distance would be to move that access further away from that curve and provide more sight distance. Absent of that, I think what they're proposing to do is, again, more traffic controls, speed limit signs, things like that, which, as long as people obey them, it'll meet the design standards.
All right.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, but I'm opening it up now to questions, so go right ahead.
So if we go back to 50, which they didn't comment that they were going to do any fixing for, I'm just curious, based upon your review of the plans, we have all this extra pavement, or not extra pavement, but a lot more pavement than we had before, and all that stormwater is going into drains that's culminating at this one area. But this implies that there's not actually going to be an increase in water flowing?
There's not an increase in the pre and post calculated rates from the existing conditions to post. Looking at the two major design points.
So does that mean we're removing an equal amount of pavement that we're adding?
So it looks like they have about, if I remember correctly, a little over an acre of increase in impervious surface. Because there's impervious surface out there now to develop site. So I believe, again, I may be
So
off.
if we're adding an acre of impervious surface and all the stormwater is going to the same place, why do we think that there's going to not be more stormwater?
Right, so they have two underground infiltration systems. So you're getting some, again, the soils aren't great, so you have very minimal, but you do get some infiltration into the ground for that. And as the calculations show, one area is a 30-inch prefabricated underground infiltration chamber, so you actually get some detention in that too.
All right, so if we cover all those filtration areas correctly, then the actual water that comes out of that last basin is no more than before?
But that's where we're asking for kind of a little more information. It's, again, like the way they did their design approach is that they looked at two major design points, one being the wetlands that go behind the field, and then Mass Ave. So when you look at it in that macro sense, based on their calculation, again, as long as the other comments we brought up, the time of concentrations and things like that, as long as those check out fine, the calculations they provide show that the post rate of runoff is no more than the pre. To those major design points, but we bring up that sometimes you need to look at critical design points, one being the outfall of that 24-inch pipe, because as the site sits today, a lot of the stormwater where the proposed school is shown now is just fields that goes by surface flow into the synthetic field area and just runs off into the wetlands. Now with the new site, you're collecting all of that water and bringing it right through that 24-inch pipe. So you're funneling more of that water to one point, which is fine as long as there isn't any negative impacts coming out of that culvert. Because everything eventually gets to that wetland and that ditch. But what happens right at that pipe, we believe, is important to look at. And that's what wasn't explicitly clear in the calculations, that what's happening there. So that's why we brought that up in number 50, to have that evaluation done at that point. Because that would be although it's not a major design point per se, it is a critical design point.
Any other questions from the board? Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks a lot for putting this together, and it's real helpful to understand what the deltas are from our recommendations, and I'm not super expert on all the details, so I trust that you'll work that out with the engineer. The few things that kind of caught my attention is kind of a non-expert, but someone with a interest in the project, is the stuff around the storm events. That seemed it sounded kind of pretty important. Like, I mean, here's a building with like a, probably to the town, like at least a 50-year life cycle. What is the consequence? Let's say it's not designed to meet a 25-year storm.
So the consequences would be, is you'd have backups. Your pipes can't handle, so say they're designed for the 10-year storm at the maximum, anything above the 10-year storm, your pipes couldn't handle the flow of water that gets into them, so they're gonna back up in some fashion. And then that's where you can look at how much they back up. Do they come out of the structure? Sometimes they'll back up into a structure only a couple feet until that instantaneous peak rate of runoff gets through, and then the pipe can handle the flow, and that peak elevation of water in the structures goes by. Sometimes they're so undersized that you'll actually have water coming out of structures, coming out of drain manholes, coming out of catch basins, which then, you'll have water where you're not planning on coming out of something, possibly causing erosion to an area, out of a landscape area, or down a slope, things like that. So that's where the storm frequency, as it pertains to pipe capacities, kind of comes into play. Some of the standards nowadays are 25-year storm that we see in the pipe sizing, but the town's regulations refer to 10-year storm for that.
So the risks of the failures.
Hold on, that gentleman wanted to add.
Excuse me, sorry.
You need to come to the mic.
My name is Sean Smith. I'm with Niche Engineering. We're the engineering design firm for the project. And I just wanted to add a little bit of additional information that hasn't been stated yet for the board to consider. And part of what we're working with on this particular site, obviously it's a challenging site, stormwater-wise, downstream of the discharge culvert and the wetlands. This all flows down to the southeast, and there's a 30-inch culvert that goes under Massachusetts Avenue that we need to be aware of. And that's partly driving our design intent to maintain that 24-inch line, because what we don't want to do is design this to a standard which allows all of that water to then be released at a rate that's greater than the peak, which is why we're mitigating our peak flows. So that's driving our intent to maintain that 24-inch line. Obviously, we don't want to put a 36-inch line that goes down to a 30-inch line. And that's why you're seeing the comments related to hydraulic grade line and the backing up, because the intent is to throttle the flow a little bit and maintain water a little bit longer on site and release it over a longer period of time so that we don't overwhelm downstream receiving channels and receiving culverts. So I just wanted to present that information as we move forward and consider this, and we will provide Whitman Bingham and Mr. Cleaves with the additional hydraulic grade line that he requested, just to elaborate upon that particular.
Can I ask you a question on that? Is that also the reason why we have a crown road, but there's no curb that's bringing the water to a storm drain? Is the intent there to not feed more water into the storm drain system, and hopefully it'll just go into the lawn on the side of the road, or?
No, I believe that's actually a valid comment, that we would like to collect that water with a curb of some sort, probably a bituminous berm.
The comment said no change is going to be done for that one, so I was curious.
We need to look. These are comments that we're slowly working through, of course,
okay.
And we received these, I believe, late
So
last week.
if we did put the curb in and the berm and all that water was collected off of all that pavement, we still think we're going to be okay with that?
Well, that was actually the design intent, was to collect it, and I believe that actually generated the comment.
We'll fix 74 too then.
Sure. And another quick point of note is there is a existing underground storm system there today. It's not as extensive as Mr. Cleaves highlighted as what we're putting in now, but that system also has absolutely no detention systems and absolutely no water quality features as it was constructed before all those regulations came into play. So we're putting those in. We actually have 2 underground infiltration systems. We also have 2 very large storm pipes that are acting as detention systems also to help with that throttling, as I referred to earlier. So we're very much improving the pre-post condition in this case.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, you were still going, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, so thanks, Joanna. Yeah, so I guess, help me understand this better. In the event, and thanks for Niche Engineering for explaining that. in the event that the storm outstripped the capacity, a storm occurred that outstripped the capacity for the stormwater system to handle it, so you mentioned erosion as one consequence, is that?
Well, I think what I was getting, as it appears, as Mr. Smith kind of elaborated more on, is it appears as though, I guess, how they're utilizing the pipe network is not as you would see a conventional pipe network where you're conveying stormwater to a detention basin or to some kind of detaining type structure. So you have the pipe size to a storm event, whether it be 10 or 25-year storm, and making sure that that water is conveyed to those locations, and then you detain it at an underground system, above ground system, and you detain the stormwater there. Again, as Mr. Smith just elaborated, it looks like they're using the actual pipe network as the detention system. So you restrict the flow of the stormwater in those pipes, and you let it back up in the systems. So you're using that as your detention type structure, so that by the time the stormwater gets through your system to your ultimate discharge point, you've reduced the flow of that. And so the problems become, if you restrict the flow too much, that water needs a place to go. And so depending upon how the elevations work, again, we mentioned hydraulic grade lines, you could have water coming out of structures at certain storm events. So that becomes the impact to that. Standard isn't to design the stormwater network for a 100-year storm event. So, when you have larger storms, you do get that. You're going to get, structures that can't take the water until that major peak goes through. And it sounds like that's how they've modeled their network. It's not a typical conveyance system where you need to meet the 10-year storm event and make sure that water is conveyed. They're actually using it as a detention system to kind of address some of your comments in regards to slowing the water down because of the increase in impervious surface, things like that.
So yeah, the thing that I'm trying to understand is I think I understand.
Right, and that's why we asked for that hydraulic grade line. That's where that comment came from, is so that we and the board in the town, the school department, the DPW would have an understanding of what they're going to be taking on once the project is built. Where's the water going to be on the 10-year storm? Is it going to be coming out of drain manhole 6? Is it going to be coming out of the catch basin? So they're aware. You're going to have a situation where you have water wanting to come out, well, if that's okay with the town, you might want to have those structures bolted down so the covers aren't popping up under large storm events, things like that. Or if it's coming out of a catch basin, if it comes out of that catch basin, then where's it going to go? Right now, it's modeled all through a pipe network to the outlet point. But if some of the larger storms, it's not going to do that. It may bubble out of the catch basin and go across a lawn, make its way to an abutter's land, things like that. So that's kind of where that comment was geared for. Is we want to see that information. We can, so the board understands. Again, the school department, the DPW knows what the system's actually going to be doing.
Yeah, and that's kind of where my question was going to. Is when a structure fails, what's the specific impact? And it sounds like you're saying you can actually predict what the areas of impact are likely to,
yeah,
to be. Is it going to flood out the gym? Is it going to flood the neighbor's yard? I mean, and I wonder, does any of our, I don't know if this, when we finance this, if there's some insurance we're allowed to carry, does the insurance speak to any standards that we have to have?
I'm not sure. I don't see, again, just my look at it, I don't see it's going to have any necessarily impacts around the building. They have area drains around some of the buildings. Not a lot of flow is up against that, it looked like. But if those backed up, it would be isolated around the building, I think, but some of the major areas are more out in the parking areas, driveway areas. It'll come up out of the manhole, and then if it's in a low point, it'll just pond around that structure until the storm subsides a little bit, and then it relieves itself. Catch basin, say along a grade, the catch basin can't handle it, it's just gonna skip that catch basin, go down to the next one, or the next one, or the next one, and then eventually, either jump a curb or make a low point even more ponding. So it's those kinds of things. It's good to have an idea of what could happen under the larger storm events.
Thank you.
Well, stormwater aside, my question on here is when we're going to talk about the property line and the relationship of the Passys House School to the high school.
Mm-hmm. Wait, this is the form.
This is the forum. Did we ever get any determination as to, is there a minimum lot size that the new school project needs to maintain?
I haven't, I've got the same. You do. No, please, you guys are going to bounce now, because the questions will go to you to answer, so.
Chantel, I don't know if I'm stealing your thunder.
No, go ahead.
Your zoning bylaw does state a 40,000 square foot minimum lot size for an educational facility, and 175-foot minimum lot width, and 100-foot minimum lot frontage. And there's plenty of room on, maybe I can point with a laser pointer. Stay here, but the, actually, no, let me put the other board up. Sorry, I have to move around. So just to put things into context here, here's the Passio School, and here's, from the driveway to this edge of the site, you can see that black line, hopefully. That's an edge of the site. This is the 62-acre parcel that goes out here that includes these, well, the existing high school here, these 3 buildings. And this piece right in here, from this driveway back to the back lot, to the side, over to here, is about 250,000 square feet. It's about 500 by 500 feet. So just to put that into context, you have 40,000 square foot minimum lot size, and that land area right in there is about 250,000 square feet.
Is there a minimum, if we go to subdivide that, is there a minimum frontage distance that we need on the, say, the future Passios property?
You would need frontage, yes.
The 40.
Yeah, but the Passios building's on it's a driveway, right? It's not an approved right-of-way.
Right now, I would say it's a driveway, I guess. I don't know how far Memorial Drive continues down. Does that contribute to frontage for that property or not?
Yeah, I would say figuring out, where the right-of-way is, so you can determine frontage would be a priority, and figuring out if you can subdivide, well, you could subdivide it, but it doesn't have frontage, so.
Because I almost want to say, I don't know what the right point to do it is, that maybe Memorial Drive should continue wrapping closest around the library and then back to Mass Ave. Then the driveway to the new school starts right at that kind of intersection. So that would essentially extend Memorial Drive, giving frontage to that property.
And that would be something the town would have to pursue.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. Does anyone else have any suggestion or have an issue with how we get frontage on that property?
I mean, that seems like an interesting thing to explore. What you're proposing seems like an interesting direction to explore. I guess the question that I have is the parking, that it looks like there's some additional parking for the football field that's set up kind of next to the Passios there, and I'm kind of wondering what the offsets are between that parking and, whatever. If you were to construct a property line that included the existing building, what would be the maximum offset you might get there at that field parking right now?
That parking is actually designated for the Passio school use, or the Passios building use. This is not factored into the day-to-day operations of the high school, middle school building. All of the parking for the high school, middle school is satisfied in these lots. So we were creating this lot here in order to be able to satisfy the displaced parking in the main lot between the 2 buildings that is currently used by or supporting the Passios building. So the offset, to get to your question, basically the edge of the, from the edge of the driveway back to the building, I guess if I understand your question correctly, how much yard space that is, or?
Yeah, I guess you're saying that's actually would be part of the Passios site. Exactly. And so I mean, I don't know, I don't want to rat hole on this issue, but this has come up, it's kind of a complicated thing, and it came up at our last meeting. I guess, I mean, a pretty simple but difficult to answer question came up, but yet complicated question came up at our last meeting, which was, what's the nature, that driveway that serves the high school there, that now goes and touches on the Passios parking lot. Just, I think everybody, I assume everybody's familiar that there's a building reuse committee that's considering repurposing the Passios building, and it could be repurposed for educational or other commercial uses or whatever. So the future of the Passios building isn't really clear at this point. But I guess what's going through my head here is, if we want that roadway, or whatever you want to call it, driveway, to be a private drive that's really restricted access for the high school, so that you don't have all kinds of public traffic not related to high school activity going through it. And that's what's used to access the parking lot in the Passios. That starts to raise some questions, I think, about, uses of the Passios building. I think right now when I look at this plan, my assumption was, that's somehow related to the high school, and I don't know what the ongoing assumption is that, maybe for overflow events, the high school might use it, but it belongs to the Passios during the day. So would that be kind of an easement situation? But I guess, imagine that the Passios were repurposed into small office space or something. I don't know if that's one of the potential uses you guys are thinking about. Let's say something non-school, retail or small business, small office, like doctor's office, dentist's office, whatever. It seems like, that configuration would imply that we had public non-high school traffic kind of going up in that direction to park there. And that's just giving me the feeling that, I wonder, it seems kind of tight over there. Is there anything else is there any other alternative? Building on what, and I'm not trying to design this here on the fly, but let's say you wanted to come up with a solution like what Damien was talking about with Chantel in terms of running Memorial past the front of Passios to give it frontage. And let's say they wanted to actually create a road that wrapped around that Passio site. Is there enough space there to run another 2-lane road, with a fence between the high school access road? Looks like it might be too tight right now to have another 32 feet or whatever there.
Through here, certainly, yes. I mean, I think that what was being discussed a few minutes ago is possibly extending this and having frontage along here for that site, and then having this come back out to Mass Ave, where this would then be the driveway entrance to the high school. I think trying to wrap a driveway around Passios would, in its current configuration.
Okay, sorry.
I guess my other question is, short of doing that, does that driveway connecting Mass Ave and Oak Ave, I guess the intent of that is only to be a driveway, right? It would never be a minor road or anything? It would never have the ability to be accepted by the town as a road, or is that?
That's correct. I mean, it's been designed as a driveway, not as a road.
What I thought I just heard you say, though, was that essentially the entranceway coming off of Mass Ave would, and this is the first time I understood this, that would essentially be operating as a public way up until you hit the edge of the Passios, and then it would sort of become whatever private to the high school between there and Oak. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm hearing tonight. If that were a public road, you'd be basically subdividing this parcel and creating a right-of-way through there. Right now, this is all one site. The 3 schools exist on the site, so they're sharing facilities. I might make another point too, just in terms of like big events at the high school. When you talk about overflow parking, this would certainly be in play for things like that, like homecoming, a big game in the fall, things like that. There are enough spaces on this site to satisfy those types of events. When you take a piece of this out of it, those vehicles that might use those few spaces in there will need to find a home somewhere else, a parallel parking along the driveway or something like that.
So that in terms of the subdividing, that might require some sort of easement, on the new lot or whatever, to basically grant the high school permission to use that.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to what use this is, and you're in the driver's seat.
Yeah. No matter what happens, well, right now we don't have a use hammered down. It's going to try and leave that as open as possible, to leave ourselves as many options as possible, because the ultimate goal is to not have to knock it down, and just by not having to knock it down, we save the town $1 million. So the idea is to make that an attractive enough piece of property that someone takes it over and does something with it. I wouldn't want to go try throwing easements on it right out of the gate and start putting restrictions on it that way. I want to my intent is to make sure that we make that as marketable a piece of property as possible.
Well, that's why I'm kind of bringing this up, is because right now, actually, you would need 2 easements. I mean, if I understand correctly, depending on where you cut the private versus public roadway, the owner of the new Passios lot, if that driveway was on that lot and was there, would need an easement on the high school's driveway to get onto the lot. And then the high school would need an easement on the lot to use it for overflow parking. So you'd kind of have, I think the conversation about making that, that memorial and then that spur down to Mass Ave, that's interesting. It'd be great to get feedback from, police and fire, just other stakeholders, to see if that's reasonable. Because, I mean, these are the kind of things I think need to be figured out in order to make that a viable lot, and to not compromise the safety and quality of the high school driveway in a way we don't want to do. Like, my personal assumption is we don't want to turn Oak to Mass Ave, that driveway, and have that be a public way. I think that I'd be interested in getting the school's feedback, but
I appreciate the concern, but even regardless if you call it a roadway or I call it a driveway, people are going to drive down it because it's there. So
I disagree with that. I think that can be enforced.
how do you propose to stop them? It's a road connecting two other roads. It's a shortcut, and if it's convenient, people will use it.
If there's a sign there that says high school traffic only, $300 fine, I think that will cut back on.
I don't think that's appropriate. And the second, I guess I would say, what are the hurdles to making that driveway safe to use as a road? Because I feel like people are going to use it as a road anyways. And then we call that frontage. Put a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on it, whatever you got to do. But I feel like it's going to be used as a road anyways. What are the hurdles to making it safe to be used as a road?
Because if it was a road, it would also sell the frontage from it.
Is there, how much bigger would it have to be, I guess, to be a real road?
Well, I think I just might suggest it may not be a matter of safety. It's about spatial limitations in the widths of the right-of-way and how it fits. And the horizontal, vertical road alignment and all of that. But it hasn't been designed specifically to those standards. And I don't have a quantitative answer for you on that point right now. Yeah, I mean, from at least from a safety and use standpoint, it's 24 feet wide from Oak Avenue down to here, and then it's 32 feet wide from there out. Mm-hmm. We have traffic calming in the form of these speed tables set up along the driveway, so that there will be speed control on that as a use for the high school and middle school traffic. If people drive through there, it's not a safety issue. It's more of I think, a jurisdictional and ownership issue.
And plus, it's also the queuing area for drop-off, so that you'd end up having everyone queued up alongside the road instead of the driveway.
That's what we do now.
Where do we do that?
Oak Ave.
Oak Ave is queued.
Exact same situation we have now, and I
Goes down to Mrs. Crafty's.
don't have a queuing lane there.
Pick up.
Yeah, for pickup, it goes down.
It's been a few years since I've had to do it.
So I'm just saying that I think it's going to be used as a road anyways. Why not make it safe to be used that way and then use it to our benefit?
Yeah, I think that's an important question. I'm not sure. I think there's probably some good arguments on both sides of that. I don't think the planning board can resolve that one though, but I think that definitely would be one we want to see get resolved definitively in the design, and then understand based on that resolution where the Passios is at.
If I could just make a couple of comments. Mike Mackin, Chairman of the School Building Committee, 26 Cortlandt Circle in Lunenburg. Just a couple of comments. Any change from the design of a school driveway, school entrance road to an actual road would be borne completely by the town, because that would not be something that the Massachusetts School Building Authority would participate in. So that's just to give some background information. In addition, I mean, there are several alternatives to ensure that there's not common use of that particular entrance. I mean, we talked earlier about Memorial Drive. There has been no discussion about the outcome of the Brooks House and whether that parcel would make sense to be a part of the entire reuse of the property in order to address things like parking and access and road frontage. So there are alternatives that will keep that safe. I think that's a discussion that the reuse committee will have along the way, and as you know, I'm a member of that as well, and I think that we can work something out that will keep our driveway safe and to ensure that there's a good reuse of the existing building.
Thank you, Mike.
Can I just ask a quick question on the parking? You talked about the overflow parking being used by the TC Cassios. Did we design the parking for the new combo school to just cover the larger capacity of the school? Or does it also cover the TC Cassios parking at the end of the day, if you just count number of parking spots?
If I understand your question, I didn't hear the first part. The new parking that's designed for the high school, middle school, is that designed for what?
Yeah, so I know the new parking for high school, middle school covers all the parking that we currently have at the high school and the middle school, and I assume additional spots for the extra capacity of the building, right? So I'm right to talk. But you talked about overflow parking. Today we overflow that parking into the elementary school area. If the elementary school area was not there, what were we planning on for overflow parking?
Pardon?
Turkey Hill Middle School.
Yes. That's true. We were asked as part of this design process on this project to understand what the total capacity need was for the largest event on the site, obviously exceeding the parking requirements in zoning, but a practical question. You know, how much parking is required when you have the largest event. In the fall, the sporting events, you can have up to 500 vehicles. And on this 62-acre parcel, which includes the Turkey Hill Middle School, and then we also looked at the municipal spaces over here around the Boys and Girls Club, and then the parallel parking along the driveway that exists. And we saw that there was, I think we put it on the plan, total site area parking is about 508 spaces, including what we're proposing in these lots up here and here. So those events happen outside of normal school hours, and they're centered around the activities on the ball fields. But when that comment and question really came from assurance that there isn't going to be a need for parking out on the adjacent streets.
Okay.
But to answer your question,
did you say
with
508 or 580?
508. And I think that the reuse of this area, because this piece of land in here exceeds what is necessary from a minimum lot size, I think the long-term planning and reuse of that area should take into consideration the school's needs for those events.
And do you know, off the top of your head, how many spots we have today?
Yeah, I can tell you that we're increasing the parking on the site by about 27 spaces. So I guess you'd subtract 27 from 508.
I'm sorry, that's over and above what's at the high school site right now, or the high school plus Passios?
No, that doesn't include Passios.
That doesn't include Passios. Okay, thanks. Sorry. Actually, if I may,
Go.
I'll stop beating this horse after this issue, but
Thank you.
Ken was talking about Passios. What do you think? So I'm just looking at, if we were to subdivide out the lot for Passios in order for purpose of reuse with the building on it as it is right now, I'm just trying to understand how conforming or non-conforming that lot would be. What is I'm assuming the lot offset would be like not literally touching the high school's driveway, so it would be offset towards the lot side, some amount from the high school's driveway. What would the minimum clearance be between the Passio structure and the proposed driveway?
As it's drawn there?
As drawn, yeah.
There's about 45 to 50 feet between the existing building and the proposed curb line of that driveway.
Oh, okay. And so if we were to put, this may be a question for Anthony, if the lot line, would it be acceptable for the lot line, how close could we put the lot line to the driveway and still be conforming?
Look at our zoning.
I think if you ran it, if it's, I don't know, is it 20-foot offset? So I mean, if it's 40 feet and we split the difference, then it's conforming.
I thought it was 20, no, 40. It's, huh?
I have a feeling it's 40 for
40.
the front yard.
Yeah, I think it's for the side.
Maybe put a side yard. I don't know. I guess.
Okay.
I mean, it's like, yeah, it would be like a side yard between those houses, but I don't know.
I can't see it. What's it say?
40.
40? It is 40.
It's 40. So that would mean, the only way the Passios lot would be conforming would be as if the lot line was on the curb, but would the driveway be conforming? Is it conforming to have a driveway right on the edge of a property? I'm not sure if there's any rules about driveways and offsets.
You say driveway for which building?
The driveway, proposed high school driveway. If you wanted to make the Passios lot conforming in terms of building offset, if that offset's 40 feet and the minimum distance to the driveway is 40 feet, then the lot line would have to be on the curb of the driveway for it to be conforming.
We're also going to have to address that with our village district bylaw that's probably going to encompass that building, because right now, if we want to make it conform to Residence A, the only thing that can go in there is another school.
Okay, or if we overlay it or whatever.
So we're going to have to address those numbers there. What really needs to happen is make sure there's frontage on A Street somewhere, to make sure that that frontage is meaningful if you want to market it to someone who's going to actually take over that building and save us that $1 million and maybe give us more.
Right, well, and do you look at the lot line and fix the lot line now, which we probably should do, because even if we don't do anything with that building and we incur the $1 million, it will just go back to the school anyway as a parking lot within the school.
Yes.
So, but I want to be able to, in planning for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years down the road, if we want to encompass and make revenue off of that TC Passio building and rent it out, you really have to have a parking, a driveway, not shared with the school, with 1,200 parents, going in and, well, not 800 parents, 1,200 students going in and out of that building, with all the sports activities, with all of that. So, and do we sit, and when I'm looking at the front of the building, and Kid's Kingdom is to the left, can we shift that parking over there and use Memorial Drive, as you said, and go out on the other side of the library? But that's something, and I think our first meeting with the building reuse on June 18th will help us with that we could sit down and look at that building and look at the Brooks and kind of make that roadmap.
Yep. Yeah, so
Okay.
I think for now.
So
we
if
don't
we
have to
can
answer this.
move on to, any other questions from the board before I open it to the public? Okay. Any questions from the public? Okay. So now they're looking for, is it a conceptual, what is it because you're saying you want to, oh, did you want? Oh, I didn't know which one was coming.
I simply ask that you consider conditional acceptance of the plan as presented with the revisions that we're going to be making that would be satisfactory to your reviewing engineer.
And what is, as the acting director, what is your, what avenue are you directing us to go in?
How long do you think it's going to take you to get revisions and information back to Whitnam and Bingham?
probably defer to the engineers.
Okay.
I would say week or two.
We could have our information back to them in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Which would be the June 23rd meeting, is it the 23rd?
I think that just to be on the safe side, giving your conditional acceptance would be a better idea to do at the next meeting, once everything's all set with both engineering firms.
On the June 23rd?
Just to make sure everything's all set.
And that is a televised meeting. So- Yeah, just come to the mic, because the people at home can't hear you. It's not for us. It's the people watching at home.
Sorry. Aaron Gallagher with Niche Engineering.
Hi, Aaron.
We would get them their information back within a week, week and a half, and then they're going to need to review it again
Okay.
and then make sure that they're comfortable with it. So I would say that it'd be more than 2 weeks before Anthony would be able to get that back to us.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay. So,
So that puts
The
us
next
in
one.
July.
do it your first meeting in July.
Which the 4th is a Friday, 5th, 6th, 7th. So is that July 7th?
Oh, let me grab my phone.
Yes, July 7th would be the next.
Okay,
Is that correct?
I'll double check it right now. You're probably right, but,
So before we make a decision on,
I'm not texting, I'm looking at a calendar.
it's right here.
July 7th, okay.
You're right.
Never mind.
Which July 7th would help us, only because by then we had our first meeting with the reuse. So we would also have more information based on the TC Passio and Brooks Building to be able to, make better decisions at that July 7th meeting. That's my only thinking, is that we'll have that information as well.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, obviously that would be great for us. My only thing is we should find out from them if.
Well, I think that's what
the-
they're all doing
okay.
now. They're all powwowing to see if they can hold off till the 7th.
Yeah, what the impact on project schedule
Exactly.
is. Because they're bidding and all kinds of fun stuff.
Okay.
What's the outcome?
If I can make a suggestion.
Please.
To consider. So you do have another meeting in June?
June 23rd?
As was mentioned, I think it's going to be a tight time frame for them to make some changes, get it to us, to review the changes and everything together. But we would do our best to try and do that, to get a quick turnaround, to keep things moving. I'm sure they're going to do their best to try and get it to us. So what I would suggest is me putting a time slot on the next agenda.
And if we
for that.
don't, we'll push out to the
We
7th, but if
all
you
do our
do,
best to do
we're
it.
on for the 23rd.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that? We'll put a place card on the July 23rd agenda, and if everybody's come to senses, we'll move forward. If not, then we can just push it out to July 7th.
Aren't we the 14th in July? We're the
I think it's
second
Ju-
and fourth, right?
Yes.
What
The
Monday that'd be?
7th and the
third,
21st.
The 7th is the first Monday. in
So then we push it out to the, what's the second Monday in
Well,
July?
I think they're talking about June.
June
They're talking about
23rd.
June 23rd.
They're going
and
to go on the agenda for June 23rd.
Right, and then if they can't quite make it, then it would be July 7th.
Is
Yeah,
the
but-
second Monday, or is it the first Monday?
I'm sorry, the 14th.
The 14th,
Sorry.
okay.
I apologize.
Thank you,
It's the
Damon.
first Monday.
Yeah, the 14th, July 14th.
Yeah, July.
So hopefully the
And I would-
23rd will work for everybody.
And I would think even at a minimum, that there'd probably still be worth discussing things. Maybe we don't get through everything, but maybe we can get through a lot, enough
Okay.
of the big stuff that we can
That-
still have a good discussion.
That works for us. The sooner, because, and yeah, well, we all support it. So anything we could do to get the school set and done and starting, everybody doing their job functions on it, the better for everybody. So we'll put you on for the 23rd, and if that works, fantastic. And our reuse building meeting is the 18th, so that still gives us information for the 23rd. All right? So we will see you hopefully on the 23rd.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job by all. Thank you so much. Oh, I thought she was telling me to wait. Okay. That's done. Anthony, thank you so much. For doing this pro bono. You did a lot of work. Thank you so much.
You got it.
Okay. Next on the agenda, right on time at 7:15, we have Elmwood Road subdivision, endorsement of covenant. What do we got going on there?
Hi, good evening. Peter Campobasso, 3
Hi,
Clark
Peter,
Street,
how are
Leominster.
you?
I submitted a draft Form H covenant last week to Marjorie at the planning board. She
Yeah,
gave
we've
me
got
some
that right here.
comments. And I have the original here, signed by Mike Crowley, if you want that one to endorse.
Peter, can you do me a favor and
Sure.
just walk me through the covenant?
Yep, this basically is a covenant that will bind the developer to build the roadways and the utilities according to the plan. And the covenant is such that it's recorded at the registry so that no lots can be conveyed out to third parties unless, and no building permits can be issued unless the roadway's built to the plans and specs.
Okay.
There's 3 different ways you can bond the subdivision. Performance bond money, an agreement with a construction lender where they would set aside certain construction funds, or this type of a covenant where there's an agreement between the developer and the town that no lots will be built upon or sold until the roadway is built and the roadway utilities are built according to the subdivision approval.
Okay, so can I ask, because is this what we signed? And now we're in that little pickle.
You need a different type of surety for that situation. Like I told Marjorie.
For the white teal? Okay, okay, so this is,
Because things are getting built and they shouldn't be. So,
okay. All right. All right. So on the, does everybody understand what this is asking? Yes, please, go ahead, Ken.
Why was there no performance bond?
Because developers can choose
Choose
the type
3
of
options.
surety that they would like to use when they go forth to build a subdivision. So there are 3 options, just like Mr. our friend Capobasso just said, so.
They have the option to do a performance, this, or what was the third?
Tri-party agreement with a construction lender, the town, and the developer.
So the developer has decided to go with the Form 2.
For the time being, there will not be any type of construction lending at this point in time. There's site work that needs to be done to get the project going. So Mike, his time frame, he's more comfortable with the Form H. More than likely,
it's
what will
H, I thought it
happen
was 2.
is once he does get progressing, he may very well come back to the town, request a release of this, and put up a
Something
performance
different.
bond for the work that remains, so that he can actually get going with the house lots.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Keep in mind, with this covenant in place, the building inspector, building department would not be able to issue building permits for construction of house lots until either this was complied with or it was released in a different type of bond were put for the town to make sure the roadway utilities and the road were built.
Thank you.
Is everybody all set?
I'm fine. Yeah, Chantel, you've reviewed it and it looks solid to you.
And do we make a motion to sign this? Is that,
Yes, you can make a motion.
okay, so I would accept a motion to accept the Form H plan that Mr. Crowley is going with for Elmwood Road subdivision.
Is that the one that Mr. Crowley already signed? Okay, you
Okay.
guys need to sign this one.
So this is the formal one that will be submitted to the Registry of Deeds and on file.
And can you send a copy back to us?
Yeah, someone will have to notarize,
This? Okay, actually, we'll keep it then,
Yeah.
and we'll send you back a copy.
and then someone can notify me when it's ready. We'll come and pick it up and record it with the other documents.
Okay, perfect.
So just so I understand this clearly, I'm assuming that he can start the project, remove all the gravel that he wants to from the lots, start doing his excavation work, and then at any point he can stop, and he's perfectly fine, right? Because there's no performance requirements, so he just can't sell any lots.
Right. He can't sell
But
any
he can do all the excavation that he wants and pull all the material out that he wants.
lots. Right,
That's what we're-
and start construction on the road.
Okay.
So do I have a motion to accept Form H?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Nice to see you.
Same here.
Let us know if you don't like this whole, we always see this left to right.
That's okay, I don't mind going first. Just,
Okay, 725, we have an A&R for Montori Farm, 174 Northfield Road, Whitnam and Bingham.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board.
Good evening.
For the record, my name is Frank Preston of Whitman and Bingham Associates, and my task tonight is to submit this approval not required plan on Northfield Road.
Hi, Mr. Preston, first time we've ever met.
It is. I haven't been in front of the Lunenburg board in quite some time. They give me mostly commercial and industrial work, actually. So.
Well, welcome.
I have a collection of documents here, including a filing fee.
Okay.
And some plans. And often, board members find it convenient to have a reduced size copy of the plan to examine if you'd care to look at this. Who might I give these plans to?
Right here, you can give those right to me.
20 years ago, I would have made the leap. Those days are gone.
Thank you so much.
Mylar, topographic plan. Check is in there.
Okay.
And hopefully it won't leak out on all of us.
Yeah.
And if anyone would like a reduced size copy of this to examine?
Yeah, they'd all love that. Thank you.
thanks.
Not quite such a bed sheet to deal with when you have restricted space.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, so here is his
All right.
paperwork and check. You guys have a plan. Do you want to open the big ones or the one you have
I
sufficient?
think this is great.
Okay, perfect.
All right, this tract of land consists of 20 acres on the easterly side of Northfield Road, running all the way to Hickory Hills Lake. And these are very old property lines. As a point of interest, these properties existed before Hickory Hills Lake was inundated by the creation of Mulpus Road Dam. So you can see at the back there that the lines do not follow the water's edge. There are two 10-acre lots, approximately equal, each with 220 feet of frontage, which exceeds the minimum of 100 feet for this zone. The 10-acre lot size exceeds the minimum of 40,000 square feet for each zone, for this zone. And the lot width is again 220 feet, which exceeds the 175-foot minimum. In the package of documents that I've delivered, there is a sign-off from the Neshoba Board of Health saying that they've accepted the septic system designs for these lots. If there are any questions from the board, I'd be happy to try to answer them. You'll note that this is adjacent to the condominium project, Marcus and Flower Drive, just as a point of reference to tell where it is.
Do these lots become deeded lots as part of the Hickory Hills Lake Association?
No, that's not part of the Hickory Hills Lake Association.
So technically, these are lots with lake frontage on a lake they can't use?
They in effect have lake frontage, even though, as I said, those property lines existed before the lake was inundated. That's the way it just turns out. There will be lake frontage.
So like they actually, in addition to having lake frontage, they actually have a lake.
Yeah, exactly, precisely. They own some of the water. I forget how far back I had to chase the deeds to figure that out, but as I said, they, to my interest, I guess is the right word, that back property line existed before the lake did. Quite old lots.
Yeah.
You know, and just as, again, a point of interest, these were originally 2 10-acre lots side by side, but they were in common ownership for so long that, for all practical purposes, they became one tract of land. So they cannot be sold separately anymore without a fresh A&R plan.
Okay.
So, I'm not knowledgeable on these things, so I'm going to ask the question. When something like this comes forward, do we not modify the property lines to be in alignment with the lake, or do we accept them the way that it is drawn based upon the history? Or?
Well, just, there's any number of ways to look at it. That back line was in existence before the lake. When the lake was flooded, the line did not magically move. That property line of ownership still existed. And just because it was flooded, that does not mean the ownership magically changed hands.
I mean, it's a good question. I'm not aware.
It can create some really interesting situations, because now you could go down and claim that you own that section of the lake. You could do whatever you wanted on it if it was claiming it's your own property.
Within the restrictions provided by conservation and Board of Health and.
Within the 30-foot no touch.
And yeah, that kind of stuff.
That's probably the key point.
Exactly.
There is a 30-foot no-touch zone.
They can't do anything within a 30-foot no
Yeah.
touch, unless conservation approves it.
Well,
So-
but again, 30-foot no touch is a pretty strict limitation.
It is, especially for
Yeah.
lakes in
Yeah, so-
Lunenburg. Absolutely.
So again, they'll be able to walk down there, probably even take a dip on a hot day, but doing actually much of anything in terms of moving dirt, even building a dock would be tough to pull off.
Yes. And, because the Lake Shirley, there's only 3 properties that have the same thing on their deed. They own 20 feet out, the marina, the Old Glenny Marina, they own under the lake. Their deed specifies that. Out of the 240, there's only 3 that have that. And this is just one of them from.
I can't play attorney because that's not what I am. But one of the things we bump up against is the whole area of law that governs water boundaries. And I won't keep the board and bore you silly going into any of that, but as I said, in a case like this, a pre-existing boundary line which is affected by a man-created event does not result in a new boundary line. Dickinson Reservoir, where he built it so he had a place to land a seaplane.
So on this 10 acres, right now, we're just subdividing. Okay, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Preston?
I'm all set.
The way it works is we submit this, and then it goes to all the boards. It
Exactly.
circulates through all the boards. All the boards will give us their feedback, each department, conservation, the sewer, the police chief, fire, they'll all get a copy of this plan, and then it'll come back to us in 2 weeks. And if there's anything wrong, we share that with you. If it's fine, then we sign off on the plan.
And so all things being in order, you would anticipate signing it 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks, as long as all the other boards come back.
Exactly.
Yep.
And hopefully there'll be enough feedback in advance in case there is something we have to address before then, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so
And
much,
we do-
everyone.
Yeah, we do have a letter. Did you get a copy of the letter from the sewer commission?
Yes, I did. Yes, I
Okay.
did.
In
That's-
regards to,
Yeah, they will not extend the sewer to accommodate this
Right,
property.
exactly.
Not an issue because we have designed, again, we've presented this to the Neshoba Board of Health with their approval. The new lot gets a new septic system, and the old one gets a repair of the existing system. So
Okay.
no connection to the town sewer is required.
okay, All right.
So,
And that's perfect, and this will go to them as well, so.
terrific, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate you taking the time to
I think there's
review
a
this.
gentleman that wants to, so I don't know if you want to stay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, Board, my name is Dave McDonald. I'm the Vice Chair of the Sewer Commission. I just want to thank you for designing the septic systems for that 10-acre property. When it was first proposed to the Sewer Commission, it was a 20-acre property, and they had problems with the septic designs. I just want to make it clear that according to our CWMP, this area of Lunenburg is rated very low for need for sewer. So again, if you read the letter, I just want to put it on the record that we will vigorously fight for not only that 10 acres or the future 10 acres. So hopefully everyone understands where the sewer commission is on this. Thank you.
Okay, you will vigorously fight what?
It is outside the sewer district right now.
So you will vigorously fight the extension of the sewer?
We would not allow sewer in that area.
Okay. And so you mean on that area of North, running it down Northfield?
Right.
So if he gets 2/3 vote in that area, like you've done with the other
No,
previous
it's
ones, you
not,
won't?
it's not part of the sewer district, and it's also the lease part. If this town of Lunenburg spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on the CWMP.
But we've changed that. Lake Shirley was
Yeah,
number
but-
one, and we moved it to the back, so.
Yeah, but our stand is just because of the replenishment of Hickory Hills, and I live on Hickory Hills, which is a private lake, and we pay our dues. But the replenishment to the economy, the ecology of the lake is very important to us. But again, it's in our CWMP. We've talked with all the engineers on it, and I think we're all in understanding. But again, the reason why I'm here is for the record for that 10 acres plus future 10 acres. And that's all I have to say on that. And good luck to you on your project.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Good to meet you, sir.
And let's just say that a 10-acre lot, that's pretty
Just come to the
comfortable
mic.
room to get a septic system in one way or the other.
Yeah.
We all set? Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you,
All
and I
right.
will see you in 2 weeks.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice meeting you, Mr. Preston. Okay. We're at number 6, Board Reorganizational Capital Planning Representative. We did go to Kerry on the capital planning, and a planning board member should be sitting on the capital plan. So I would like to put out there, I would enjoy sitting on that. I haven't been on that, and that's something I'd like to put my hat in the ring on, if I would have the support of the board to do so.
Joanna, I would love to support you in doing that.
Thank you, Damon. Do we have a second?
I also support it. Second.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. And Ken, we need a representative on the Montechusett Joint Transit Commission.
Here.
And you weren't here at that meeting, but
That's
we,
what happens when you don't come to a meeting, you get voted.
yeah, I see, we just vote you right in.
It's fine.
That works for you?
Yeah, that works for me.
Oh, perfect.
I do have a question with regards to that. though.
Yes.
I did want to participate in the Village District Center Planning Workshop
Yeah, we're all there.
on June 18th, and that is a conflict with the MJT.
So,
Is it possible to move that, or?
I missed that I think I had come in late when we
Yeah, yeah.
set
Well,
that date for the,
I think you were there for the
I think I-
scheduling. So
yeah.
the idea, well, actually, no, wait, the June 18th, this is the one that, that wasn't actually center planning, that was economic development, was what that was.
No, the 18th is with the reuse committee, right, or no?
It's the Village District Center Planning Workshop.
16th is,
The Master Plan Workshop is the 16th.
Okay, the master plan's the 16th, the 18th is
Our
which?
joint meeting with the building reuse committee.
it's with the reuse committee.
Yeah, the 18th one's gonna be hard to reschedule, because we get,
That's a 9-member board, the building
So,
reuse.
so what is the participation at the MJTC like? Is that something that would be a problem if I did not attend that meeting?
is Paula going to that one?
I don't know.
She's right there.
Yeah, you'll get. Paula, are you going to the 18th MGTC meeting?
Are you talking about the MPO meeting?
No? MJTC.
Is on the 18th?
Yeah.
So I got an email today from, that they're looking to reschedule that meeting to the 25th. So-
No problem solved.
So,
Thank you.
but
I
I...
didn't get that email, Marjorie.
I've got to verify that it's MJTC and not just MPO, because MPO was scheduled the 18th, and I get the emails as the MPO rep, so I'm not sure when the JTC meeting is.
There's nothing on their website, so.
All right, I will find out.
Well, it should be
Ken.
on the calendar. If you go on the MRPC
I
one.
did go there. It wasn't on the calendar. It was just listed that it was.
Well, I'll come back to it. Let me go read my email and I'll come back.
Thanks, Paul.
Perfect. And we can call too, because we didn't inform them of you as of yet, because we wanted to make sure we had your approval. So we kind of, as a board, put you on there, but we didn't notify anybody as of yet.
Sure.
We might be able to find an alternate for him too, I
Right.
guess, in theory, yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll run with that and email you tomorrow.
So Ken's accepting the nomination to the MJTC?
He did.
Okay, good. Should we vote on
I would accept a motion.
a motion to, have Ken serve as the planning board rep on MJTC?
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful.
Unless we didn't vote for you either, so we got firsts and seconds, we got motion and second on you.
Okay, so we all vote to put me on capital plan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we all already voted to put Ken on MJTC.
Beautiful.
So that is good. So we'll go into committee reports. MJTC, there wouldn't be a report as of yet, but we'll find out when the next meeting is and get that scheduled. MRPC, there's been no meeting since the update last meeting with you. School Building Committee, Nathan.
Yeah, so, you got a nice update on the project today.
We did.
I guess the only thing I'd add to that is they are actively beginning to bid, I believe, the site work for the project.
Okay.
They're I guess, put out an RFP or something, and they're getting bidders in, and they're evaluating the bidders to do the work. The other thing is, I mentioned at our last meeting that there was some process issues with the MSBA that needed to be resolved, and I'm very happy to report that those were successfully resolved and that the project is
Oh, good. It's
100% go
not hold anymore.
in its current
Hiatus is
incarnation.
over.
Yes, so
Perfect.
everything is on track, and it should be blue skies, from here on out.
Wonderful. That's great. And Damon, Building Reuse Committee.
All right. I have to try to remember that one, but one thing in particular was we look at this building, the town hall, and all the town offices. So Deb Seeley's been going around and looking at space needs of town employees and getting a feel for what's out there now. And then we're going to begin to look at this building, the town hall, and how we can get those space needs fit into here and make it work and make it nice and making it good work environment for everyone, and use this building to its maximum potential, which really is kind of not being used right now. Also, we officially added the primary school to our purview of the Building Reuse Committee, so we will...
The old primary.
The old primary school, yes. Be looking at that and how that can be essentially marketed in the future, because really the town doesn't have an effective use for that square footage in that building itself. So one of the things we talked about was added value if we package that with the Ritter building, and potentially with maybe even allowing through however we end up writing our village district bylaw or whatever, but allowing maybe the reuse of the footprint of the old fire station as well, because if a developer is going to come in or anyone's going to come in and try to fit out those buildings, there's an added cost to fitting out existing buildings that's tough to recover. And if they have also the opportunity to build a new building that fits their needs perfectly, that kind of makes it more feasible, cost-wise, and more attractive to get a quality investor over there. So that's one thing. But we'll see also how the timeline falls with that, because the primary school is one of the buildings that we actually can act on sooner because it's not tied up and we don't have people occupying it. It doesn't need to be transferred at town meeting or anything of that nature. So that's the other hurdle to that. That building is up, can be utilized quicker, whereas the Ritter is going to take some time to get those staff out of there. So, but things to consider, part of the conversation.
I love the Ritter.
And also, we talked a little bit about, well, I give an update as far as,
Just to be clear, David, sorry, if I may, just, this is a bad time to
No,
cut in on
cut
you. So that sounds pretty exciting. I'm assuming, you know, some preservation of the Ritter is involved in that. It's not giving up the Ritter's footprint, it's about, they would be given,
Yeah.
there would be, you know, they would be given the Ritter to repurpose, but there would be stipulations in terms of, you know, maintaining.
well, I think the inevitable goal of the Building Use Committee is to save or repurpose those buildings, not to
Gotcha.
knock them down.
Yep, yep.
Clearly, the Ritter is treasured building to the townspeople.
Yep.
Primary building, old primary building, also old high school building at the time, I feel it has value to the town because many of the lifelong inhabitants attended that school building, and it does mean something to a lot of people. So the idea would be to get someone in there who can utilize it, add on to it, whatever, but realistically reuse those buildings and also give them the opportunity to use the footprint of that old fire station that was there, because right now it kind of feels like a tooth knocked out of the town's face. I mean, there was kind of a streetscape there that now is gone and leaves that Verizon building, which, no offense to Verizon, isn't that very attractive over there, but we could potentially, if we looked at that as a site to be utilized, would, you know, add to the character of the town center in a positive light.
And I don't know, I'm just thinking out of the box. I'll be on the, you know, news and selectmen's meeting being mocked on tomorrow night probably. But the building itself, the preschool.
Yeah.
Could we look at moving, because the preschool pays, that revenue comes in when you send your child to preschool. Once they go into kindergarten, you used to have to pay for all day, and then we changed it that all day is free. But I think for preschool, they still pay. So could we make that building a revenue generating building within our preschool and after school, you know, before school and after school daycare, and have that facility open till 4 or 5 o'clock because right now we bus the kids to TC Passio for the after school daycare, and maybe we could funnel that all up there, and that building would now generate money and pay for itself and still be used.
We haven't taken an official tour over there yet, but I've heard, and from walking around the outside, know that that building's in tough shape, and it would not be a just send the kids over there thing. It would take a lot of capital investment to get the building ready for that. And also, the real idea behind the Building Reuse Committee is get these burdens off the town's hands. While it could be revenue generating, it's still a capital cost that's on our books that we would like to clear and use that more effectively.
Because I know, you know, preschool's a lot of money, so it's a great revenue generating.
Plus, if we can get another entity over there and maximize that site, get more parking over there.
No, there's all different options, but
Yeah.
that's.
I think
because
private
they're-
hands is much better than for the town to try to do something with that.
Okay.
Yeah, so thanks. I mean, I think it's exciting to hear that, you know, that there, it sounds like exciting developments. Thanks for the update on that, yeah.
And,
Anything else?
Well, we talked a little bit about the visioning session, but I'll bring that up when we get to Village District draft bylaw.
All right. So now we go into new business development status reports. Chantel.
Okay.
145 Page Street, right of first refusal.
Here we are.
Am I taking one and passing one
I
down?
think so. Yeah, this is pretty
Big. Take one down. I need
And I
one.
think this is really just for your
Really works.
information.
Okay, because I need one more.
Yeah, it,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it really is just for your information at this point, because I think you're gonna have to get verification back from the town administrator asking your opinion on it. But
Okay.
this got sent to the planning board office as an FYI, at least for your information at this point. But down the road, be aware that you'll probably be asking for an opinion on it, so.
Okay.
Okay? It's just a change of use that someone wants to do on their property, which is restricted as a 61A, and they're looking to make it residential, I think. I think it's residential. So, I think that's about it.
Well, I think they're asking, right, if we have 120 days to decide if we want to buy this property.
Right of first refusal. Oh, okay, maybe I got the wrong one I was thinking of.
Okay. That's what I
Need
think
to
this is,
share
is
with
saying
the
that-
board's planning conversation on
Yeah.
open space.
Attached,
Okay.
please find a notice of right of first refusal recently received by the Office of Land Use holding a Chapter 61A designation located at 145 Page Street. The property is approximately 13 acres in size and is intended to be sold for residential use. You may have received individual notice of this sale. The town has 120 days or until 9/25/14 to exercise its right of first refusal if it is so chosen. The seller, of course, would like to know as soon as feasible whether or not the town is interested in exercising its right. Please have your board review the attached document and advise me in writing as to whether or not it believes the town should attempt to acquire this property. Your review and consideration should focus on the board's objectives regarding acquisition. The financial aspect of any potential acquisition will be considered by the Board of Selectmen and/or Finance Committee. Please respond to me on or before Wednesday, July 9th, 2014. If you have any questions, please be in touch. Thank you, Carrie.
Okay, so this went to the next step from the last time I saw it.
Okay. So, and I believe this property, I don't know, is when you come to Lancaster Ave, you take Page, you go up Page and you can take a right on Reservoir. Right across the street. That's been in front of us before to break up the whole parcel into the 13 residential and the farming. You see they just mowed the pasture for the cow corn. So that's the property in
Yeah, it's the
question.
17 acres, that's the farmhouse, with a little pond behind it. And I guess that land was in, the land behind the pond was in 61A or something, so I don't know if we have right of first refusal on it, I guess.
On the 13 acres, right, that the house is on. That's gonna be,
I would assume we would have no interest in that land.
that's what I'm thinking. If it's staying as a residential 13-acre home, I don't foresee
I don't see it.
a conservation
No, we have
aspect.
conservation land around it, or anything of that nature.
Well, there's also address the conservation, and
Yes,
So,
so conservation will be
we'll get their
screwed up
comment from it too.
as well. Yep, absolutely. So if we want to mull that over, maybe take a ride by it, see what they're talking about visually, and then we can, on our June 23rd, vote on if we think it's feasible for the town and have that letter sent to Kerry.
Yes.
Perfect. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, it's fine
Okay.
with me.
Great.
I guess, I mean, I, like Ken said, like, my initial take would be, it doesn't, it's not something that would meet any of our guidelines. I guess, the only thing is, I guess if Chantel had time, if she could verify, I haven't specifically looked at the adjacent lots, to know, like, I'm assuming there's no town land adjacent to it. I don't know that. That type of thing. Is there anything interesting about that area that, if I knew, would change my mind? I doubt it, but it's kind of a due diligence thing.
Okay. We'll take
No, thank you.
a look.
Actually, it is adjacent to town property. I was incorrect, it is actually adjacent to town property.
Okay.
What's it adjacent to?
Oh, well, it's hard to tell from this drawing if it actually is or not. But there is the lot below it, it just says Town of Lunenburg, but that just could be the stamp on the plan as well, so.
Well, we can research that.
Yeah, we
and-
can look, we can also look at, the assessor's
It
cards
actually
and
is, it is
whatnot.
owned by the Town of Lunenburg,
Okay.
so. Yeah, the land directly, let's see, which way traveling here, where's north on here? So the land west, I'm sorry, the land east of the lot under question is actually owned by the town of Lunenburg. But, I mean, we would be looking at a right of first refusal for almost $300,000 for a farmhouse.
Yeah, no, I mean, that doesn't, yeah,
The
it'd have to
land,
be
did you
pretty
say to the
compelling.
east?
To the east,
Isn't there a red ranch
towards Boston, yeah, in the front, but as you go back with
in the
actual pond
back
is.
where the pond is?
Yeah,
Okay.
behind the house is the pond, right, and my understanding from
Yeah,
looking
I've
at
never
this
been behind. I
before-
thought it was all part of that farm.
Yeah, I think the pond and the land behind it was what was in the chapter 61A.
Okay.
And that land that's behind it that was in the chapter 61A is actually adjacent to the town of Lunenburg property.
Okay.
So we would have to, I don't know exactly what we'd have to do on that. There may be some kind of discussion about what you would have to do to subdivide that, because this whole lot is 17 acres, or 17.8 acres. And only part of it is subject to 61A.
The pond, right? Is this it?
Only part of it's subject to 61A, okay.
Well,
This is
before we
the
talk
front.
too much on it, I would
This is the
defer to
front.
the Open Space Committee
the
and their
13.
recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if
Yeah.
you're talking about, acquiring it for open space access, yeah, I mean, I think in general,
They're not talking about the land that's behind the pond?
I don't believe so.
Okay, I'm just wondering.
I don't believe so. The farmhouse is right up here in front on Page Street, and the pond's back. The town land's over here.
Right.
You can put down. All right. Nathan, you are up on inclusionary zoning discussion. You went to a seminar?
yeah, I attended a seminar, which I think was really, I thought it was pretty useful and informative. It was over in Devon's at the hotel there. It was put on by a professional planners association. I came straight from work. I didn't bring the paperwork with me. But to summarize what it was about, there were a number of workshops and a few keynote speakers. And what inclusionary zoning is really, it's about things you can do with your zoning bylaws to encourage the production of affordable housing. And that's really what it's about. So that the goal being, by having bylaws that have these kind of inclusionary aspects to them, as housing is produced, you'll be more likely to increase your affordable housing stock in proportion to the growth of your overall housing stock. So, for example, if you're trying to maintain a certain percentage of affordable housing in the town, or in some cases, if you're trying to build a base of affordable housing that you don't have, creating bylaws that sort of have some of these inclusionary aspects can help you achieve those goals.
Okay.
And so that I attended a seminar which had a panel which had the sort of the planning directors from 4 towns. One was Groton, Shrewsbury, Cambridge, and Arlington, and that was really interesting. And then the other one I attended was about legal perspectives on crafting inclusionary zoning bylaws. And I guess, I don't want to take up the whole meeting. I'm happy to talk about anything you want to. I think this is definitely things that we can talk about when we start talking about working on our housing element, for
Housing
example,
element, yep.
or our housing production plan. This will be directly relevant to that. So we can go into more detail then, unless, you want me to keep going on now.
Yeah, I think it'll fit perfectly when we start talking about the housing element. I thank you for going.
Oh, no, my pleasure. It was actually a real treat.
Does anybody have any questions on the? we skipped over minutes, so I would need a motion to accept the minutes that were emailed to us from the 5/27/14 meeting.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Go with
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Favor.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you on that. The next thing we have is the high school we already did. Highfield Village, we already did. Force Corp. There's a verbal update on Force Corp. This was, I had asked Marjorie, if you remember, to write to Force Corp, because they had said that they would move the fence back and take some of that,
Yeah, I got it.
that's done. To take some of the mound out of there to help the sight distance. So I had asked her to follow up, because we had only gotten feedback from the fire, the police chief and the director at the DPW. So he, she wrote back, the planning board's questioning, and he responded, I didn't have the chance to move the fence yet. We just finished the septic system this week that was taking a lot of space on the site. I will have a big machine I need to transfer to a job site to be able to do it. I think I'll be able to do this in about 2 weeks. So he is saying he's very willing to move the fence and take some of that out to help that site distance. So he should be working on that in about 2 weeks. So I just wanted to let you know the response on that.
That's great.
Yeah, that was, I was glad. All right, definitive subdivision, 50 Elmwood Road, see above, we already did. White Woods on Mass Ave, we have no report. Emerald Place at Lake Whalum, no report. 651 Chase Road solar update. Hi Marjorie, Pleasant Street, plantings are finishing up, Chase Road, plantings ongoing, site cleanup finishing, I'm gonna take a ride on Pleasant Street. Site cleanup finishing up, Unitil is on Chase Road doing pole work as we speak. So that's that. 265 I just read to you. Whitetail Crossing. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, if you
Okay.
want to, yeah.
I'm a little confused on that, and I need some direction. Hopefully you can help on. Because they signed, what happened is, I got a call from Marjorie, and they signed a Form H. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
That says,
That no building would take place, and that's the former surety they were going to have for their subdivision.
and everybody signed it, it went to the registry of deeds, and now they want to sell. Whitetail is looking to sell
Their lots.
their lots
And build on them.
and build on them. And we gave out building permits,
Okay.
and the road hasn't been approved yet, which the H said we weren't supposed to do.
Right. So, again, as you saw earlier tonight, what needs to happen is they need to change their surety to either a tri-party agreement or
So
a bond.
The
of some
current
sort.
owner would need to come in front of us, change that
Right.
to either the bond or the other.
And you can release the covenant at that point, but you just need to make sure you have some sort of surety so the town has the means to finish the road if the developer ever walked away from the
Exactly.
project. Yep.
Exactly, okay. So does Marjorie, did you and Marjorie have this conversation as well?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So you may want to write a letter to the developer or.
The current developer.
Or a
Current
phone
owner.
call or something, notifying him that where they're selling those lots, that the surety needs to change.
Okay.
Okay.
So, may I ask a question about that?
Yes.
So, the building permits have been issued for these lots?
I guess so.
Occupancy permits have been issued. People are living there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the building permits were given out, occupancy permits were given, and the road's not finished, and this Form H says that's not supposed to happen.
It's, okay, so it says that, it was conditioned on the road being turned over to the town. Wow.
And now the new buyer goes to, and this is on the register, this is deeded, and, yeah, now they're all saying, well, wait a minute. You already gave us, and of course, we don't know any of this.
So I guess, I mean, it seems like, I mean, there was some kind of process breakdown
Yeah.
there.
Between the
Seems that
building
way.
inspector and the planning director. There was a,
Communication breakdown.
Yeah. Okay.
It happens.
Yeah, no, I understood. I just wanted to,
Yeah.
so, and now the new owner is saying, that, well, you already gave the building permits, so we're all set. And we're saying no.
Yeah.
gotcha.
Not until there's some other bond for this road, because we're not taking ownership of a road that's not done.
Right.
Okay,
right.
thanks for explaining and for the update, yeah.
Sure. Okay.
And the doneness criteria now is because of the stormwater runoff? Is that what the issue is with the road?
Oh, I don't believe so. According to Marjorie, she's talked to the peer review engineer. The road's not 100% complete. And if the road's not 100% complete, then, you know, you need some sort of surety to make sure the town has the means to finish the road or stormwater infrastructure that's not finished yet. So
Yeah, I
that's,
guess it's the stormwater infrastructure. The road is done.
Yes,
Yeah.
but they, Jack and Jesse Johnson from
Yeah.
David Ross is the peer review engineer for us.
And
And
you-
they wanted to be on May's ballot to get that road approved. And with the winter and all the snow we had, Jack, the director of the highway, couldn't get out there. So by the time they finally get out there, the director's saying, no, it's not ready. There's more work that needs to be done for us to accept this road. So the developer was trying to get it completed. Town meeting came, he couldn't. So he said, okay, I'll wait and put it on. We passed over to town meeting, and he was gonna put it on the hopefully fall. We usually have an election in November, December, and he was gonna have it on that ballot.
Okay,
So-
so his intention is to finish the road. before-
Right, and we as a planning board right now know the road's not ready. So we definitely have to get some type of different
Surety,
insurance.
yeah, and you-
Before we sign off on anything.
you should have your peer review engineer do an estimate as to the, you know, cost of what it would be to complete the road. So you'd have a set amount to go by to, for the developer to set the surety at, so,
So Marjorie would have to get
Yeah.
that. Okay,
so,
all right, perfect.
okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Action file, 250 William Road, Lunenburg Village. No update. MRPC traffic count, verbal update. We requested the count for Goodrich and Lancaster, and the Board of Selectmen signed that. So we're all set there. 40 Lemonster Road, that is the cell tower that's looking to go up. Damon, have we heard anything from the Historical Commission on that?
My understanding, yeah, we talked about it at our last meeting. My understanding was that the chairperson was going to send a letter to Marjorie and also the company that forwarded us the information to begin with, that there are no historic properties really in that area. Just the concern was that Lancaster Ave itself is a designated a scenic road, and we had to make sure that none of the views going down Lancaster Ave were impeded by the cell tower.
Well, because the road's on the other side of Lancaster Ave. It's not on Lancaster Ave.
I know, but it might be visible.
Oh, okay.
We wanted to make sure it wasn't visible from Lancaster Ave.
All right. And she didn't get the letter yet, so if you could just email
I will.
and remind her.
Yep.
Thank you.
You know, it'd be cool if they could put like one of those fake windmill things.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Village District, we have a joint meeting workshop with the Reeves Committee on June 18th at 6:30 PM at the Ritter Building.
Ritter Building. Yep.
Can I ask, you had said it's a 9? I thought it was a 7. It's a 9-member committee?
I think it's 7, maybe not. Yeah.
Building use?
Building reuse.
Must be 9.
I think it's 9. Yeah. Now that you said, there's 9. Yeah. It's a lot of
So
people
I'm
on that
missing
one.
2. Who are the other 2?
Let's see. Myself, Jamie Toll, Ron Albert, Dave McDonald, Deb Seeley,
Dave Matthews?
Dave Matthews,
Mike Macklin?
Mike Mackin, Steve Verboyne,
Oh, okay, he's still alive.
and Anne Marie Phelps of the Historic Commission.
I was missing Steve.
I'm losing
So,
track of my...
For Marjorie, we're going to need the room downstairs, because if there's 9 of them and 5 of us, we won't fit in the planning board conference room.
Okay.
So that's why I was asking. So can we just make sure that they've booked the room in the basement of the Ritter Building?
Okay.
So we all can sit comfortably. Thank you.
And also, as a side note, that visioning session for the town center that I spoke about that the Historic Commission is going to put on
Yes.
for us, I guess we have to submit an agenda for it, but this is going to be June 30th
June 30th.
here at 6:30. So,
And if you need my help with that, I told you I would be more than happy to help you with that.
yes, thank you. We're
And
gonna
are you going to have it televised?
I think we're going to try to do that. I have to talk to PAC still and make sure they're available. But,
Okay.
yeah, I'm going to post an agenda for that in the next day or two. I confirmed with Lynn that the space is open, so you're just going to start advertising it.
Perfect. Perfect. Get it on the scroll.
Get on the scroll. There should be a Ledger article this Friday, just pointing it out. The Historic Commission usually has an article in the paper, so we utilize that too. Just give a
Lions
highlight.
Club board.
We can do that too.
Get it on the Lions Club board.
And I spoke with Carrie briefly about doing a mailer, maybe to the people who live within the center of town, because I feel like they're the most important ones to know about this.
And if you have a memo, you might want to ask all the chairs of the other boards, give them all a quick email, and asking them to cover it in their meetings, just like Tom Alonso, at the beginning of a selectmen's meeting, will write, read what's going on.
Yeah.
And that way, people can just keep hearing it on TV as another avenue to get people there.
Yep. So at the same time as I do an agenda, I'll do a flyer per se, I guess.
Yeah, and they can read them and
Yep.
give it to every board.
So, I'm sorry, I'm kind of thick here. So the 18th is our joint board with the Building Reuse Committee.
Yeah, we're very busy.
And then the 30th is the historical perspective on town center.
Yeah, we're going to go through dates, but
Awesome.
June
No, that's great.
16th, we have a workshop, master planning workshop at the Ritter, June 16th. June 18th, so that's next Monday. We're meeting the next 3 Mondays.
Gotcha.
Next Monday, we're doing 6:30 Village District Master Planning over at the Ritter. 2 days later, Wednesday, we have another meeting, the 18th, with the reuse. And then our next planning board meeting will be at the town hall because we have the public hearing on June 23rd.
Public hearing for...
Highfield Village was pushed out to June
Yeah, yeah.
23rd.
Oh, okay, thanks. And just to make sure we're on the same page, that June 16th, is that specifically about economic development?
I came in late to the meeting, you
Okay,
ran
yeah.
it, so I
think that's going to be part of the focus.
And the housing element and the...
Yes, exactly. John right now is preparing the letter that we talked about last time to kind of plot your game plan.
Okay.
So I think that's a lot of what he was going to talk on, and also bring your concerns about the economic development and housing, like you had mentioned.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, that's fine, I'm not trying, I guess, my concern is too much, my hope when I set up that work, proposed setting up that workshop was to go deep in economic development, focus on a review of the element that you guys prepared for us.
And I'm sure...
I didn't realize John was coming, so that's...
Yeah, John's gonna, actually, I probably will skip that meeting and John's gonna...
Gonna run it?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Because he's closer to the master plan than I am.
Okay.
So, at least that's what we discussed today, but if you guys need me...
I don't think so. I think as long as John's here, because it's just a workshop, so it's just strategizing. And you met with Kerry. Did she sign and that's all set?
Yes.
Okay.
So
with the, I never say it right, DLAF?
I'm sorry?
The DLAF?
She signed the contract for the village district?
The housing?
The housing
element.
production and the regional animal control officer for DLTA.
DLTA, DLAF. I call it DLAF.
I had no idea what you were talking about.
The DLTA. So Kerry signed them. They had a meeting Thursday.
Okay.
So we do have the money now to do all that, and John is going to get that all updated in our master plan.
Okay, so, she said, I'm sorry, repeat, housing?
The housing-
Regional animal and. what-
And the village district.
Village district.
In the village district, okay.
To get the village district finished, because that's still a draft.
Right.
So we want to get that finished. We want to get our housing element done.
Okay.
And the regional.
So, yeah, I guess in terms of the agenda for that meeting, though, I guess here's the reason I want to ask is because I want to propose that if we're going to still focus, like, if we're going to have 2 hours to talk about economic development, I'm going to strongly encourage myself and fellow board members to really geek out on that
And you certainly can. I just think that you should also take like 15 minutes to look at the broad picture.
That's cool, like an
Yeah.
update on like where we're going.
Exactly. You're gonna want to take a look at, plotting your road ahead essentially, and taking those few minutes to kind of look at what John proposes.
Okay.
And I would ask if we could re-email, because I don't know if Ken has that, so Ken can get up to speed. So if we
Okay.
can re-email the village district draft.
Okay.
Everything that they're going to talk about, the economic development draft.
Okay.
All those things, so Ken can get up to speed.
I think Marjorie has those. I'll
Yes.
touch base with her on
Yes.
that.
Thank you
Okay.
so
So as far as that sounds great, and I mean, he gave us an overview last time. Things have moved forward, and that Carrie's actually approved this stuff, which is awesome.
Right.
So 15 minutes for overview is good. I guess unless someone has another idea, I would propose that rather than try to talk a lot about housing and a lot about village, I would suggest that we do the overview with a schedule, and then have an understanding that our agenda for that meeting is going to be like whatever, 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours on economic development, just so that we don't try to. I think if we try to do too much, we won't make the forward progress we need to do. And is there any objections to that focus for that meeting? So definitely get the high level overview, so we're all up to speed on that. But then deep dive on economic development with the goal of, there's 2 goals here. One is Ken, just to update, if I may update Ken on this real fast.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the MRPC, which is Massachusetts Regional Planning Committee, which Chantel is a member of, and she's kind of on loan to us as our temporary planning director. John Hume works with Chantel there. He's also there.
The director of planning.
Yeah, planning and development, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him come present updates.
Oh, great. So you've seen them. So anyways, sorry if I'm repeating stuff you already know. We actually participated in a grant, and I don't know if we kicked in additional money or not, but they've actually prepared what they call a chapter, or they call it an element. It's kind of like a chapter of our town's master plan in relationship to economic development. And we actually haven't, as a board, sort of had a final review as a group, and haven't adopted it. So there's kind of 2 goals at this point. One is to formally review that document as a group, talk about, is it 100% good? Are there things in it that we think we need to tweak? And with the goal of driving that towards something we like and can adopt. And the second thing is, in addition to what they've prepared, that for years there's been, just threads of conversation around economic development. This is an opportunity for board members to bring the things that they've either heard from our conversations or from the Board of Selectmen or elsewhere, and start to have a conversation around that. Are those things that we've been talking about represented in this master planning element, or do we need to look towards augmenting it either before or shortly after we adopt it? And then I guess the last goal would be, economic development's been a very hot topic in the town boards in general, Board of Selectmen, town meeting. Town managers talked about it a lot. I guess one of the conversations I'm hoping to have at that meeting is, what are the steps as a planning board, either in relation to the master plan that we need to initiate to start achieving some of the goals that we expect to see in the master plan? And, are there any things that we should be targeting for the next town meeting?
Okay, and I'm fine with that.
Awesome. All right, thanks.
Okay. So that was just the 40 we did, village district bylaw, we have the joint, we just covered all of those, master plan 16. Notices and communications, Lancaster zoning board of appeals is just letting us know 40B is to be constructed 14 townhouses, 2-bedroom units, and 2 townhomes as 3-bedroom townhouse units for a total of 16 rental units. Construction of 6 buildings will include access roadways, common areas, and other amenities. The proposed site is located in the residential zoning district at 246 High Street Extension along Route 110 in Lancaster, Mass. So 110 in Lancaster, Mass, if I go the Air Rotary Harvard, that's 110. So when you get to the center of Harvard and go down, it's that back road that they're just letting us know of. Kerry Spadell just sent Kerry Toby a letter thanking him for his years of service. And the Board of Appeals of Lunenburg on Wednesday, June 11th, what's today's date? Okay, it's not happened yet. Up here, Joseph Blotter Room, the Lunenburg Zoning Board will be hearing a petition of Joshua Bernes, 230 Great Road, Shirley. The property, which is the subject in this case, is located at 1259 Massachusetts Ave, Lunenburg. The owner is a Glow Chiropractic down there. The petitioner is seeking a special permit for dimensional variation to allow for contractor planting, including a prefabricated garage building 36 by 72 for the purpose of conducting a landscaping business on the property and to retain the existing office building for rental for professional office purposes. So that's going in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals, Wednesday, June 11th at 7:30 p.m. And one thing I just wanted to add is Nathan and I attended the Economic Development meeting up at Mount Wachusett Community College last Wednesday, and it was really informative. I got to speak to Mir Wong, and she had said something very interesting in the fact that, you know, Fitchburg, when they do get opportunities for new development coming in, they don't have the land.
Right.
And Lunenburg or these other little communities have the land, but they're not going there. And she, in the city of Fitchburg, is gaining all these expenses with transportation fees and all this stuff, whereas if these people were coming to Lunenburg, she would still benefit because she'd be saving that money. So really looking to partner with the big cities, communities with residential or a lot of land to try to work together and become partners, because you're both going to identify with that. And also, what hit me is I was sitting at our table with a woman from the Lancaster Planning Board, and we were talking about Route 70 and the soccer fields, and she's like, oh yes, what's in demand right now that they're really focusing on is a gas station with a Dunkin' Donuts, because all these people are traveling on a Saturday and Sunday. And I said, well, wait a minute, there's one a mile and a half from the field. And she said, well, nobody knows that. There's no signage, so they're getting back on the highway, and that meals tax is going to Leominster because they're going down to 13 following the gas signs, and Lunenburg is losing that money. So we really got to look at what is our sign bylaw? So I'd like to, what is the sign bylaw? Are we hindering this mobile station? Is it a mobile? I don't even know what it is. Yeah, it's a mobile. Are we hindering this mobile station and the opportunity? Are we hindering Lunenburg with the meals tax by not letting them advertise a gas sign? Because really, they should be getting that traffic off of Route 2, just cutting right through Orchard Hills, because all the people go up there for dinner, to Target, to Dick's, because, oh, it's soccer, I broke my cleat, so they're all running up to that plaza. They don't know there's an end to it.
But I just want to understand, what about our sign bylaw, like, what would help, them having a sign over on Route 2 or over where, and how is our zoning bylaw interfering with their sign?
That I don't know, that's what I want to read.
Okay.
I want to read the sign bylaw, because I believe they asked for a big sign, a big tall sign that you could see from Route 2, and we said, no, it's not allowed in our sign bylaw. I believe when they first came to us, that was one of the signs they wanted, was that, to get that visibility off of Route 2, and I think we had thought it wasn't in our sign bylaw, so I'd like you and Marjorie just to look at that. Well, or somehow, but really, it's gonna benefit us, because, like I said, it's going to Leominster, and if you all have driven by 70 on a Saturday, like Memorial Day weekend, it was a 3-day tournament. That's why the hotel in Devon's got built, because of all the people coming for all these tournaments, and that's only gonna get bigger. The soccer tournaments, per the Lancaster planning person that was at that meeting, is they're really working on putting right businesses on 70. Like, I don't know if you know, the flea market closed and Agway moved over, so there's a lot of things, and now I think there's going to be a car auction that's going where the flea market was. There's going to be a car auctioning nationwide, I think. She had said was,
Car recycling place down there.
what was going there, and so it's going to be moving. But I really would like to be able to, there's a way we as a community can help advertise for that meals tax revenue is coming in our base. So, and I just want to make sure our sign bylaw is not prohibiting.
I don't think the sign bylaw over here, I don't know, could we establish any kind of a relationship with neighboring towns? Because that's, what you want is something in Lancaster that's going to point the traffic back to Lunenburg for that. Right, so that's where all that traffic is. We don't have any bylaws about putting signs up in Lancaster, I don't think.
Right.
That's really where we need the signage.
Yeah, I don't know how you get, those things on Route 2 where it says, gas. And
Gas, right, and that's the thing. We might have to go to Mass DOT, Dunkin' Donuts, and gas in Dunkin' Donuts, 24-hour drive-through, and exit, whatever that, I don't know off the top of my head what the exit is right after the visitors. But they said that's the biggest thing, is people get off the highway, they go to this soccer tournament, and there's no gas or no coffee, so.
Okay.
Just to elaborate on something you said about Lisa, just you mentioned transportation fees. I think just to elaborate on that, I think she was talking about apparently Fitchburg residents have long commutes, much like many Lunenburg residents, and she was saying that, I think she was trying to improve quality of life in Fitchburg by jobs being in Lunenburg that, Fitchburg residents could work at, kind of thing. That was, I think that just a further build. That's what she meant, I think, by transportation fees, if I recall. Was that?
Yeah, no, and then I went and had a one-on-one with her after.
Yep.
Yeah, and we talked about that, because she even said, and I don't want, but like the Harley House, she used the Harley House for all her visitors, because it was easier to pick up these people on two-way, 3 miles to the, city of Fitchburg back, than going all the way up Westminster, because is it a Best Western? It's now Cocoa Keys, I don't know what hotel.
Yeah.
But,
Great Wolf now.
Yeah, Great Wolf now, but it's easier to get the person here right on 2A than going all the way to back Fitchburg. So, because she even said maybe Carrie and I can sit down and have a conversation about all of that. So she gave me her business card to set that up.
Yeah, and that's good you bring that up. And one of the themes of that was kind of neat was, all these professional planners and economic development people were reinforcing that point you make, that, it's in town, the tendency of towns when they think about economic development is to go head to head and compete. But when you look at the actual impacts, there's a lot of benefit to leveraging each other's strengths, and it's usually win-win when one town gets something that usually provides a very important benefit to the development of the other town or quality of life of the other town. So that was a really nice takeaway.
Well, and that's because that's what when I went to talk to the 3 mayors, because it was Mayor Wong, Mayor Mazzarella, and the mayor in Gardner? Mayor Hawk. And the critical thing is like Mayor Hawk said, is we all need to have like the same building permit fees. We all need to have the same plumbing inspection fees, and the same, all these town fees that we charge. We should all kind of be sitting together, working together, charging those same fees. So we're all working together, and my question is I agree with everything they said, and I think everybody sits in these rooms and says those exact same things on planning boards, as community development, economic development, but I don't want to go to this meeting next year and say the same things. So what is it we're going to do today to make the next step happen? And if you need me to help facilitate that, every community picks a person, and we have a monthly, and I know it's another meeting that's going on your calendar, but if you don't put that other meeting on your calendar, again, we're all going to be sitting here next year saying, I wish we had done. So you really got to take the action and just create that. So that's where, we're all going to work together to try to create a committee.
I think an economic development committee, which is a recommendation of your element, is something you could continue this discussion on.
Perfect. Okay, but so that was a big takeaway for me, is that, we got to start to really put that into action, because there's the economy's coming back, And there is, as they kept saying at that meeting, there is another side to the, Concord Rotary. So we just got to get people out here. So, and with that, do we have any other board comment? Do we have any public comment? With that, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Second.
And I will see you all next Monday. Aye.
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 I will see you all next Monday at the master planning session.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you all.
I'm trying to find a way to understand.